Alright. That live button has been hit. We're kind of on time. Should be saying we're live now, so for those watching... did I unclick live? No, I think we're good. For those watching. I put my hand down on the mouse and I heard a click and I see the screen kind of flicker. And I'm just like, oh, did I just screw up? But
stop being paranoid.
I think we're good. For those watching, welcome. This is the Andres Restart podcast. We do it every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern-ish time. Around there, 9:10 today because of my post-work nap took a little bit longer than expected. I am sorry. But anyways, we talk about Nintendo every week. We go over the news and such and speculate about rumors and other exciting things, and that's what this is about. So this week, returning to the cast is Dumo from Dumo Plays. His channel is linked in the description below. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Good. I'm glad you're here, man. And of course,
thank you.
Brandon from WhataboutNodnarb has returned as usual, my co-host. His channel is also linked in the description below. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. It's
good.
It's nice being hyped about something Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's not a typical emotion I associate with Pokemon.
I'm definitely excitement is definitely part of what I feel. There's a lot. There's just so much between last week and this. Like, there's just been so much to kind of like sift through and decipher and figure out and be excited about and to play. Like, there's a lot going on. But yeah, so we're gonna be talking about Pokemon today. That is a big part of this. Not all of it, but a big part of this. So we got the Pokemon Presents, and Diamond and Pearl remakes were confirmed. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I hope I'm getting those names correct.
Yeah, I think so.
So it means that the prediction was right. Now, I'm not trying to say that it was my only that I'm the only person that was predicting this, but we made the prediction a long time ago, and leading up to when the deadline was coming, I put out the bet, and I feel like most of you have heard about this already, but I'm just making it clear. Put out the bet that if it wasn't announced by the end of the month, I would have to do Naked Snow Angels. It would be recorded, and everyone would see. The snow melted this week. So, yeah, it would have been kind of hard to do that, but fortunately, it was confirmed. The Diamond and Pearl remakes are real, and they are happening. So we're going to be talking about those. We're going to be talking about this even more epic, for a lot of us at least, Pokémon Legends Arceus, which is the game that's being made by Game Freak. The Diamond and Pearl remakes are being outsourced, which is... This is unprecedented for Game Freak. So there's some big stuff here, okay? So we're talking about that. And of course, we're going to also dive into the other Nintendo stuff as well. I'm sure a lot of people are sort of speculating right now, like, what is Nintendo's plan? Because we're getting all of these big games announced for 2022, like Pokemon Legends Arceus, like Splatoon 3, like Triangle Strategy. We're getting these games that are really exciting announced for 2022. Meanwhile, that second half of 2021, the big part of this year, we pretty much know nothing, save for those Diamond and Pearl remakes. So there's a lot to kind of sift through and figure out. And of course, there's still these rumors going around about the Super Switch, which, by the way, is semi-bogus. I'll get to that in a little bit. Not saying a Switch Pro is not happening, it's just the reports are misleading. So there's that. There is the whole ongoing debate of when are we going to see Breath of the Wild 2. So we're touching on that. Dumo, I definitely want your perspective on this. I feel like whenever you come on, there's always something you bring to the table. I'm like, that is good. So
I think we've been talking about this so long, I don't know what else I got.
well, the thing is that the argument has changed. I'm just curious if your perspective has changed. So we're going to be talking about that and a whole bunch of other things tonight. For if you guys have any other topics in the chat, by all means, bring it there. We will get to the chat as well. Now, there is something that I failed to do, and I apologize for this, but Bravely Default 2 came out this week. I have seen that the reviews have been fairly positive. I haven't gotten a chance to play the game yet. I haven't gotten a chance to really look too much into the reception. I just know that it's been fairly positive. So I don't have that much to say to it right now. Brandon or Dumo, if there's anything you guys want to say to that game, for sure, bring it up. I just personally haven't had the time to really kind of look too much into it.
I have a friend playing it. Has good things to say about it, and that's about all I know right now. I've been really busy, and then news. It was a news dump for a bunch of stuff came out about Monster Hunter.
Right.
Been busy with the Splatoon team. Been like it's been a busy week, and I don't have the time and money to play all this stuff, or else I would be there playing it. But it's just I've heard very, very good things. I think we were expecting good things. I mean, this is becoming a series that we can expect out of Square to be solid. So I don't have anything to add to it. I've heard very good things. It's about it.
Yeah. I mean, from what I understand, it's a very solid, entertaining RPG. I'll try to get more information on it, so we'll talk about it throughout the week, potentially, maybe next podcast. But definitely, it's another good Nintendo exclusive that's out there on the Switch. So it's out, it's available, check it out. There is a demo, I believe. I'm not sure if they took it down, but
I think there is
a
new demo.
Yeah, a new one. So for sure, guys, if you're looking for another good RPG experience, I think it's worth a try for sure. But let's check in with the chat here before we jump into the swing of things. Let's see what's going on here. Gaming
One
Me,
thing I will
hello. What's up?
One thing I will say is that right now it's a really good time for RPG fans.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the Switch, there's a lot of RPG coming.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Anime egotists. First time, long time, hello. D.E. Fox, you're ready. Computer robots added me. Hi everyone, I cannot wait for On Just Restart and Brian to talk about the upcoming Sakurai Presents Pyra and Mythra presentation that's coming on Thursday, and hopefully the release date's on the same day. Yeah, we're gonna touch on that as well. That is another announcement we got this week. We're getting the Sakurai Presents March 4th, so not like late into March, or the beginning of March, which is pretty nice. So we'll be touching on that for sure. Super Chris, hello. Hello there, Joseph. Hello there, Ronnie. See, Joseph asks, what's everyone currently playing? I'm currently between No More Heroes 1 and Halo Reach for the 100th time. I've personally been a bit strapped for time lately between working and the news and YouTube and sleeping and eating. I'm not saying I haven't stopped playing games, but the only game I've been playing right now, because I already 100%ed Bowser's Fury. I think I tweeted about it like about a week or so ago. So I 100%ed that, really enjoyed it. I think I talked about that last week as well. But right now I'm trying to get back into Future Connected for Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm going to completely finish that. And then we'll see where I go from there, because there's a lot of different things. I still have to get around to Octopath Traveler. I also want to play Nier Automata. I have that just loaded up on my PlayStation, just waiting for a rainy day to play that game. And that's a great game. A lot of people rave about Nier Automata, so I really want to get into that. There's a whole bunch of games, but right now I'm focused on finishing Future Connected, especially because with Pyra and Mythra coming out, there's a lot of Xenoblade love that's happening. I'm sure you guys have heard the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 sales have surged. It's very interesting, and I think it's very well deserved. The series is getting a lot more attention now, and it's getting kind of like a little bit of a second wind, which just kind of goes to show the selling power for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, right? Like, people would argue, oh, why would you bring Xenoblade 2 into the game all the way in 2021? That doesn't make any sense. It came out in 2017. Well, I hope you all feel corrected, because sales have surged. It does make sense. It is working. And I'll say that there is a bit of an ulterior motive for me playing Future Connected. Not that I don't love the game. I fall asleep to this. Like, it just makes me happy. It's like I'm just strolling through the fields of the Bionic Shoulder, playing as Melia, just listening to the music. And I pass out because it's like a lullaby to me. It's beautiful. I love it. But my ulterior motive is because I want to play through Future Connected, because I do feel like potentially there could be some hints there moving and sort of suggesting the future for Xenoblade. And then you look at what's going on here with Smash Brothers and how that trailer was. Like, yes, like pretty much immediately I figured it was probably a Smash reveal, but there was also a little bit of, as it continued on, and it wasn't very clear after the first few seconds, then maybe it would be like a Xenoblade 2.5 or a Xenoblade 3 kind of thing. So it does make me wonder, are they building up Xenoblade hype because there is a Xenoblade game around the corner? We know they're working on Xenoblade. We know that Monolith Soft has several studios, and they had hires for several different big games in development back in 2017, and we're now in 2021. So there are announcements around the corner, and historically speaking, we look at different Smash reveals. A few of them have actually been teasers for games in hindsight. For example, Luigi's Mansion 3. When we had the Castlevania characters revealed, there's this huge focus on Luigi and this haunted castle. People thought it was just for fun. It was just for fun, but it was also, I would say somewhat of a tease for Luigi's Mansion 3, which was confirmed a few months later. So I'm just saying, there might be something for Xenoblade around the corner. Maybe. It's just speculation right now. I just want to put it out there, though.
I mean, I would love to see another Monolith Soft game get announced.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be Xenoblade 3 or that other project
Yeah.
that they're working on.
I want to see what that other project is so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to see that before Xenoblade 3. Like, I want to see Xenoblade 3, but I feel like we're going to see that other project first.
I would like it. I have absolutely no idea what's going on over at Monolith right now. They have so many projects and possible projects, and they put together Xenoblade Chronicles 2 with 26 people, something like
Yeah.
that.
3 years.
It wouldn't surprise me if we see both games revealed this year. I'm not predicting that. I'm just saying, is it really out of the question? They're being developed by separate studios within Monolith Soft, right? So it's
I think you would want to spread them out.
Well, you can announce both in the same year. Doesn't mean they have to come out around the same time, right? So I already alluded to how the second half of 2021 seems kind of vacant right now, right? They could easily put out one of those the second half of 2021. The other one could simply be an announcement, kind of like Splatoon 3 or Breath of the Wild 2 back in 2019. It's just kind of like a teaser, and they kind of ride that hype and let it build up. So, for example, maybe the spin-off... Freudian slip. But maybe this other non-Xenoblade game comes out first, second half of the year. But they still announce Xenoblade 3, right? And it's just kind of something they allow to sort of build up with hype. You let people sort of enjoy the Smash characters now, sort of revisit Xenoblade 2 and Definitive Edition, and that sort of, you build a little bit more of a following there. But by teasing Xenoblade 3 this year, you're also creating more anticipation. You give more speculation and time for that to build up. And then next year, that comes out, and it's one of the bigger titles next year. I think that's a possibility, right? But you still have room to maybe release something else that's maybe a more of an experimental new IP kind of thing that could come out in the second half of 2021 to fill up those empty months that we don't know anything about yet.
I mean, I'd totally be down for that. I love everything that Monolith Soft does, so to see 2 big announcements from them would be super exciting.
It would.
I do think it would be a little bit more spread out than that, though, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just spitballing.
At this point in time, from the things I've seen out of Monolith Soft, anything can happen with them. Again, just the fact that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came together with so few people, that's that studio. I just, there's no way I can say what they're doing or what I expect out of them. However, the only thing I would say is that I would really like to see a full proper team put out a new game right now and just have it be fully cohesive.
Can you imagine if Xenoblade 2 had all the focus if it wasn't just made in different places and all sort of piecemeal together, and it had a few more months in the oven? Instead of it being considered a great game, it would have been considered an outstanding, masterful kind of game. It has the. I feel like the core of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a masterpiece, but it's not a masterpiece because of how it was pieced together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel you.
It's just it's too many disjointed parts, menus not syncing up. It's the bells and whistles basically that are missing out of it, and that's pretty much it. I think everything else of that game.
It's one of my
I love that
games.
game.
It's really good. Once you get past all that, it's just amazing. But yeah.
Oh, and once you get deep enough into the game where it actually picks up, There's so many people like I don't know if you were like around Reddit or anything at that point in time, but when like people would always come and complain that the game is the most horrible thing in the world, and then someone would explain the battle system in one of the replies, and then 2 days later they'd come back and thank everyone because they love the game now. Like it just
So like
it was it was a crazy time.
Here's an interesting example of that. So a lot of people are common criticism for the battle system, especially early on, is that you kind of just have to wait. But what's interesting, and you know, it is a fault because the game probably should have instructed you differently. They probably should have thought of something to kind of speed things up more quickly. But technically, you can do stuff immediately because there is the auto attack cancel, where if you just flick repeatedly, you build up your attack meter far quicker, and you actually have to be very active like immediately, like, and that can build up more attacks and link each other, and all of a sudden you can do a bunch of other things. And of course, as you progress in the game, you gain more mechanics, more arts, more specials, more like little perks that all sort of stack upon each other, let you sort of loop into different auto cancels and switchings and combinations of blade combos, and then full bursting and chain attacks. Like it all kind of comes together to be this incredible maelstrom of magic. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But not everyone gets there.
Games, you're also like super gimped, and you have like no moves. And honestly, yeah, if all I knew about Xenoblade's battle system was like the very first beginning when you have like 1 or 2 arts, and that was my only impression of the game, I think it kind of sucks too.
Yeah.
Like you're just waiting a lot.
The thing I feel like I had the biggest problem with is that they give you a tutorial on something and then you wouldn't be able to do it. Like they give you the tutorial early, and then it's like, okay, I want to do this, and it's like, do I just not understand it? And then it's like, as you get a little bit further in the game, your characters develop a little bit more, and suddenly it's like, oh, yeah, it does make sense. But then they also give you the same tutorial, like they give you a tutorial on the same topic, but in a different way, like multiple times throughout the story. So like you'll see it and then you completely forget about it because you can't do it and you're confused and it's frustrating. And then later on, they'll show it again and be like, oh, I can do that now. It's like, I remember this and it works now and it's awesome. But yeah, no, it took a little while to get going. That's all it was. And the story was, you know, for me, I was just like enjoying the game and the story was interesting enough. For a lot of people, they didn't enjoy the story till about chapter 5 or 6. But then, like,
I think the story's good
again,
right from the beginning.
I enjoyed it from the very beginning. But there were complaints about it being too slow at the beginning. And then, oh man, I think it was like chapter 5 or 6. Like I was, you know, I'll grind out, make sure my levels are high enough. And then by that time, it was like, nope, don't care. Just I want the next part of the story. And I just,
yeah.
And also, by the way, like, you didn't need to grind apparently because I went through
you don't.
like no
you
problems.
Really don't need to grind.
Really,
like
really well designed. Really well designed.
The difficulty is like perfect. You don't
Yeah.
need to grind.
No. I just find it. I looked something up while you guys were sort of going over that because to me, it's just sort of exciting to think. You guys aren't in my headspace yet. I'm gonna explain. So we have all this Pokemon stuff, right? And I'm referring specifically to Pokemon Arceus Legends. And we're talking about Xenoblade right now. And of course, there's also Zelda. Like, there's these 3 things, and they may seem all different, but they're also all interconnected. Hear me out. Okay? Obviously, Pokemon Legends Arceus is inspired by Breath of the Wild. It's not debatable, even remotely. But also, if we look at the combat system, it seems to be taking cues from Xenoblade Chronicles. Now, we don't know the full details of it yet, but what we already can gather is that it is a seamless transition now. It is more of a... It does look like... Basically, if you play Xenoblade Chronicles, you want to get an understanding of how it's going to be able to... How, like, playing this Pokemon game is going to be. Play Xenoblade Chronicles. You roam around this beautiful, open-ish world, and you see these monsters on the field, and then you just jump into the battle. And then prompts come up for you to do your different mechanics and such, and that's it. There's no transition to a battle scene. That's it right there. Now, we don't know specifics. It looks like battles happen in real time, but there's still like a turn-based mechanic to it. I want to hope that they still sort of retain that turn-based strategy of Pokemon because it's very deep, but sort of put other mechanics surrounding it. And I'm actually going to point this out to you guys. I'm going to show you guys something here on Twitter because this game was leaked before. It was a morning before the presents. It was leaked.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Not that long beforehand, it was leaked, and I was like,
yeah,
nah, that sounds way too good to be true.
Yeah, but it was absolutely true. So a few different things here, some crazy stuff. So some of these leaks actually have more information that was confirmed to us. So you see this image here, you can clearly see that this is from the game, right? You can. There's a Dawn looking like character, right?
Oh, yeah.
Can you guys see it on my stream yet? I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
But you look at the bottom part here, this is new information because this is all part of the same thing. So I feel like it's reasonable to expect that this is also true. You see this? These are ride Pokemon. This is a Statler-like creature, but it's a black silhouette. A climbing-like creature, black silhouette. A flying Corviknight-like creature, black silhouette.
Yeah.
So it looks like what they're doing is taking a cue from what I want to say Pokemon Sun and Moon with the ride Pokemon. But what's exciting about it is that, you know, it may also be sort of Breath of the Wild-ish at the same point because it's kind of like, oh, like remember how in Breath of the Wild you could ride on deer? Well, that looks like you can ride on a deer, right? You know how you can climb on mountains? Well, what is this right here? Climbing on a mountain. Now, I don't know if it's going to be free reign control, but there is some climbing there, right? And then here it looks like Corviknight flight, but maybe you can control that to an extent because it doesn't seem like it's just a transition. It seems like it's still within the game. Also, I think this is another random thing, but it's like this little black spot above a mountain. I don't know what's going on there. Is that a volcano? Is there like some sort of maybe Dynamax cloud or something going on there? There's
like
something.
Just a circle of clouds.
It's darker though, so there's something weird there. Is my point. But you know, there's other details about this game that's out there, which is crazy. But then going to this other part of the leak, we can see some more shots of the battling, and you will see that there's like some button prompts here. A little bit more going on there. So it's there's a lot to sort of sift through and figure out here, for sure. But I'm just saying there are some interesting similarities between what we're seeing of this game and Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade Chronicles. Now you might say, well, I mean, it's just a coincidence. Well, not entirely, because actually, if I'm not mistaken, Game Freak did move their headquarters closer to Nintendo headquarters so they could actually kind of share a lot of their development resources, if I'm not mistaken. But then also Monosoft works directly with the Zelda team. They've helped out with the different Zelda games. So like all of these different studios are kind of closely tied together. So the premise of this game has kind of sharing a lot of qualities of both Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade Chronicles. Not really crazy at all because those development teams are probably sharing resources and technologies. So, you know, take Pokemon and then throw in Xenoblade and Breath of the Wild mechanics. There's something cool there, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, it looks super cool. The idea of having the different Pokemon and just being able to hopefully just like ride them anywhere is super cool. I would love it if there's just like a huge range of different Pokemon you can do. And then of course you got the like Corviknight one where you can glide. And I like that you pointed out there's just so many similarities here to Breath of the Wild. It's so clearly inspired by that type of gameplay. And I mean, it's been like forever. Everybody's been, you know, always using the term, oh, we want a Breath of the Wild Pokemon game. And I'd have to say that this kind of fits, it's looking like it might fit the bill. But there's still a lot more that we need to see of the game. Like, we've seen so little.
Yeah, I don't know, the whole idea of like they straight up said they want their Breath of the Wild moment, and everyone just assumed it was the wild area in Sword and Shield, but
I think that was building up to this.
It's looking like a little different. And again, like Sword and Shield is a transitional game. That's one thing people seem to forget quite often. They literally went from 3DS to Switch. Like that's like a multi-generational leap in power. And Like that was a big thing for them. As much as people don't want to give them credit for that, it was a very big leap, and this is another very big leap, and there's going to be some problems with this game. It's inevitable, but you have to understand where it's going and just take it for what it is, and not like get hung up on some of the smaller details.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on a great point, Dumo, because it does. You look at it. You look at Sword and Shield. You look at Crown Tundra. You look at this. You got to think by 2023, where are they going to be then? You know, like it's because I assume another Pokemon game will be ready then. But there is this kind of like continual catch up that's happening here. But what's sort of interesting, I want to sort of touch on, is that I don't know if you remember, Dumo, but we had discussions before Sword and Shield was even revealed that there was the sources that we discussed that Game Freak had saw what happened with Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey and wanted to replicate that to some degree. And then when we saw Sword and Shield initially, it didn't even look like there was roaming Pokemon. It didn't even look like there would be a wild area. But we were like, oh, it might still be there. And then it was there. And they were like, oh, you see, this is probably what they were referring to. But, you know, it did still seem fairly conservative. But when you now take a look at what they've done with Crown Tundra and the Isle of Armor, and now how they're progressing into Legends Arceus, you see the direction they're heading in. They saw what happened with Breath of the Wild, and all of that talk and speculation about Breath of the Wild like Pokemon, I think that was always true. It's just the timing of things, right? Like we assumed that the first thing we have to see is that. No, this takes time. And we saw evidence that they were building up to it, but we're still getting there. Like this Legends of Arceus looks really cool. I'm really excited about it. But when you look at it, it's very clear that it is still far behind Breath of the Wild from a technical perspective. Like the resolution is not there, the frame rate's not there, the polygons aren't there, the details aren't there. Like it looks pretty. It's definitely a step up from Sword and Shield. I'm not denying that, and I think Sword and Shield is still pleasant to the eye, just for the record. But it's also clear that they still have a ways to go, and that's actually exciting because what else can they accomplish? You know. I'm very excited to see what's in the store. Because also keep in mind, Breath of the Wild was made for the Wii U. Breath of the Wild isn't even fully utilizing what the Switch is capable of, and that was from 2017. So Imagine what Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be, you know? Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be a closer depiction of what the Switch is actually fully capable of, you know? So,
for sure.
If Game Freak's not even at the level of base Breath of the Wild, that just goes to show how much more room for growth there is. That's exciting to me.
Probably the most exciting thing out of that entire Pokemon Presents, the absolute most exciting thing to me was that the remakes were not being handled by Game Freak, which means that Game Freak is all hands on deck right now.
Oh, that is
and they are probably
point.
And then we want to talk about, yes, it's rough around the edges, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to have frame rate issues. There are going to be issues with the game. It's inevitable. Breath of the Wild had some frame rate issues. Let's not forget that, as great as the game was. And again, this is Game Freak's first swing at this. They're going to have problems. They're going to get things wrong. You have to understand that. But as far as the game looking really rough and some of the frame rates were really bad, but we're talking about a company, about a developer that has been under the gun the entire time for the last, 25 years? They have been dropping Pokemon games nonstop. They are not allowed to ever miss a launch. Like their launch time is their launch time, and that is the end of the story. Everything hinges on it.
Yeah.
They know how to they know how to meet deadlines. So
right. So we're making
this has a deadline.
Game, let's just outsource a very simple conservative remaster. That way we still hit the deadline, which I think is great. Now, I
don't even think it's so much to hit the deadline. I think here's the deadline. This is what we want accomplished. We'll outsource this, and then we'll put everything on the end of this for as long as we can before obviously they're going to have to transition as quickly as possible with half their team into whatever is next, if they're going to keep the annual release schedule, which I really hope they don't.
I don't think I'm so yeah, actually let's touch on that. Because yeah, they're gonna get their holiday release with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, right? And we're gonna talk a little bit about those games in particular a little bit later, guys. So don't worry. But they're talking about Legends Arceus coming out early 2022, and that's Game Freak's main focus. Normally, Game Freak is behind the Pokemon game that comes out every year. Instead, they outsourced Diamond and Pearl. So they're coming out with this in early 2022. To me, that screams either February or March. Like, that's what I'm sort of expecting. They could push it up to like May or something, but I really feel like that end of fiscal year game, like that's a strong possibility, you know? But either way, regardless of where it sort of is positioned there, that then begs the question, are we getting a holiday 2022 Pokemon game? I'm not sure, because the thing is, we're getting to the point where the generation is ending. So it may be the case that Legends Arceus is kind of like that bridge game, and we may not see a holiday 2022 Pokemon game and then what happens is that we see Generation 9 actually take a little bit longer. They go past that typical 3-year window for the generations, and in 2023 we see the next Pokemon game. Now, to be clear though, that doesn't mean we have to wait till holiday 2023. They might actually use Legends Arceus as a way to sort of reposition themselves, and maybe Pokemon games become more of an early year release. I'm really just speculating here. I don't know for sure, obviously, but I don't think that's out of the question, because now that Pokemon games are on the main Nintendo platform, Nintendo has other things to release during the holidays as well. So they have to think about the positioning. Because if you're going to have a Breath of the Wild 2, a Super Mario Odyssey sequel, a Metroid Prime 4, a Xenoblade Chronicles 3, a Bayonetta 3, a new 3D Donkey Kong game, open world Star Fox, like I'm not saying all those things are happening right now, but eventually those things are all going to come, right? A lot of those things would be big potential holiday releases. Pokemon Company has to consider when they release their games. It can't always be that November time, you know what I mean? So I'm just saying that with Legends Arceus, they may be sort of repositioning themselves a little bit, giving them a little bit more time to prepare for Generation 9, but it doesn't necessarily have to be all the way to holiday 2023.
What I'm thinking is that they might be wanting to release it sooner. The scope might not be as big as we're thinking right now, because again, this is their first like large open world. It might not even be an overly large open world. Like we just don't know yet. But
watch it only be like a $40 game.
Oh, you know what? I wouldn't even care. I wouldn't even care.
I mean, I'd be excited.
I would get it and enjoy it just to see where the franchise is going.
Sweet experience. Yeah.
If they nail the gameplay and like we get this and we play it and it's like, oh my god, this is what I want Pokemon to be from here on out.
If it's an amazing, like perfect, 20 hours, like hell yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, but then it also releasing at the beginning of the year, they've met their 2022 quota for game of year. Their 2023 could then come at the holiday of 2023, and all of a sudden that's given them a lot more time in between releases.
Yeah.
But other than that, like a lot of companies seem to think that releasing early in the year is bad, but Animal Crossing's over 30 million units. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is over 30 million units. Splatoon 2 is
game of all time.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild, Splatoon 2, like the beginning of the year, Monster Hunter. You're gonna watch Monster Hunter this year, just get crazy sales. That's coming up soon. Like Nintendo seems to want a big hitter right at the end of the fiscal year, and they sell really well, and they have a long time to sell before anything else really drops. Monster Hunter World, you know, best-selling Capcom release ever. Horizon Zero Dawn. Like we're not talking little games that didn't sell and didn't take off. Like, these are all games that launched like early in the year. Like this is a valid time to launch games.
Yeah, I do sort of wonder, though, the perspective of the executives at Pokemon Company and Game Freak. Like, yes, they can do that, but they also are constantly thinking about their audience. A lot of their audience is young children. Young children can't necessarily buy games in March, you know? That's more of like the people in their teens, 20s, 30s, 40s that buy games around that time. Now, obviously, there's exceptions, but you understand my point. Like, the holiday time is when kids tend to get a lot of games because that's when families go and buy it because of Christmas. So, you know, I do wonder if they have to take that into consideration. Like, they may still want to have like that annual Pokemon release for the holidays, but they also have taken breaks before. So if they use this situation to just take a break for holiday 2022 so they can come out swinging for a big sort of Generation 9 big leap, because that, yeah, like you said, there's a bit more of a gap there. It gives them a bit more time to really hone in on that wild area Legends of Arceus sort of open world concept, and it could be really strong.
And they can build off this engine. Like, there's no reason why
I mean, I would argue
Gen
that
9
they've been
can't
building
be
on it.
like, this could just be their way of releasing and making a bit of money and recouping some losses, and then they're going to use what they have here and then just change the world in it and start adding assets. And there you go. You have, like, this is asset building, world building. I could see it. Like, they just reuse what they have, obviously, because that's how the industry works, and that's how they save money. And so they just reuse it, and suddenly 9 comes out a lot sooner than we think, because if this is, again, like a smaller game, like they have no gyms. Like, what's the story? Like, what's going to keep you going throughout the story? It's going to be like, we're looking at something fairly repetitive. And then we also have to talk about what's on the map. Okay, so we can explore and find Pokemon. Well, that's great and all, but look at Breath of the Wild with the Korok seeds, and Odyssey with the stars. Like, you need something there, and more than just what you're expecting.
Yeah, I just think they haven't shown us that much yet. I want to sort of,
still a lot we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, let's go back to the initial Sword and Shield. What did they show us? Like, there was no wild area, there was no roaming Pokemon. Two really big things about the game that they hid from us intentionally. They made it. They shouldn't have done that. Like, they created this narrative that Sword and Shield wasn't really that much of a jump, and then they did. But then the National Dex issue came out at the same time, so it kind of ruined that reveal. It was strange, but the point is that we have seen them sort of really hold back on what they're showing off. Not to mention, this is a pretty early announcement for Game Freak. Like, they rarely announce a game more than a year in advance. Like, I don't think this game is coming out in January. Earliest this game is coming out is next February, right? Earliest. So
it's really weird for them
yeah,
to announce 2 mainline games at the same time.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that, going back, is Game Freak's making Legends of Arceus, and that trailer was very mainline-esque. So what do I mean by that? They have, like, the concept art thing, and then that bleeds into gameplay, and then that transitions into CGI for Legendary. That is the formula that they do for all of their big mainline Pokemon games. Like, this is more mainline than Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee didn't have that. But you look at Sword and Shield. Remember how they showed off Zacian Zamazenta? That CGI always comes at the end. Happens for Crown Tundra. It happens for the DLC for Sword and Shield as well. But you go back to even older Pokemon games, they show off that CGI for the Legendaries afterwards. It's interesting because it's not even like they're using like the secondary team at Game Freak to make Diamond and Pearl remakes. Game Freak is making this, and they outsource the remake entirely. It's just very It makes me think
exciting.
It's very exciting. It makes me think Legends of Arceus is actually a big deal. It may be small, but we don't know that, right? Like, there's honestly tons and tons of potential here, and it's a breaking of a pattern, because normally Game Freak just does, new generation or sequel, enhanced edition or remake. This is something else. They're going back to a region, but going back to the past and giving us an entirely different story. And it's actually giving us a lot of potential there, because as we've seen with the Pokeballs, for example, the Pokeballs are made out of wood. They push out steam. They're not normal style of Pokeballs. Technology is not as advanced. There are no trainers in gym or gyms, as you noted, Dumo, right? So what will they have in place of that? it makes you wonder. And one consideration I had is that what if in this game, something they haven't shown off is that we actually, this game, a lot of it is having to do with kind of creating those customs of trainer battles and gyms and of that nature. Let's go back to Sun and Moon. In Sun and Moon, there was no Elite Four. What was the story? You created the Elite Four. Like, that was kind of part of the game, right? So, but going into it, we didn't know there was going to be that. So it wouldn't surprise me if, like, in this game, it's like the beginning of creating those patterns, you know? Which could be really fun. And as I showed you with that leak right there, right? We can see that there is going to be more platforming involved. That's really exciting. So, you know, I think there's a lot here that we don't know about yet.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of stuff that they haven't shown us. I mean, it's a long ways off in terms of Pokemon. As you said before, like, this is a really long time in between announcement and release for a Pokemon game. Because they're typically only in development for a couple of years. So for it to be a whole year development away, that's like maybe even a whole third of the entire development cycle. Yeah. So there's still a long way to go till it's out. So they really didn't show us that much, like 30 seconds of gameplay, like maybe a minute total. Really not a lot. So I think there's still like stuff about the story that we definitely don't know. And there's a ton of mechanics. I mean, with those leaked screenshots, we can see mechanics that they haven't shown us with the write-about Pokemon. So I think there's still a ton of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not worried about there being a ton of stuff. My only concern really is how they're gonna fill the world and create it to be very interesting. And I know there's been a lot of complaints already about like, oh, there doesn't seem anything interesting in the distance. Like this is such early development. Like they literally have scenes where there are no trees running in the background. The one with the Bidooфs is like the grass is just quickly like painted on like one stroke everywhere. It's like it's still rough. It's still early, but like that's not really my concern. My concern is that this is their first try, and at the first try, there's always this open world games have this weird balance of needing something everywhere, but then not wanting it to be too much.
You played through Crown Tundra, right? And Isle of Armor?
Yeah.
How'd you feel about those? Because they were basically like miniature open worlds. Like within those particular sections, it was all open.
Compared to the original Wild Area, they were essentially 1080p 3DS zones that didn't have loading screens. That's it. So what happened with the original Wild Area, and why the Wild Area has issues and why it doesn't look as good as it does, is that they went for a big wow factor, and the big you step in and you just go, oh my god, and you see the whole Wild Area in one go. And then they wanted as many Pokemon as they could on screen, which actually got scaled back later on in patches. And that's what was causing it. And then they also wanted the online functionality with the ghost players and all this stuff. And it was really cool and had that wow factor when you first got in. But it caused issues. It caused issues with like a lot of the pop-in was going to be because of that. It added a ton of pop-in, just having players kind of pop in and out as ghosts. And then when you move over to the other ones, like to the DLCs, they didn't let you see as far off into the distance, which allowed them to put more on screen and like basically pretty up the game a bit. And so this to me is very different in comparison to the DLCs. This is still, from what we've seen anyways, which is next to nothing, still seems like they don't want that huge draw distance and everything. But without having the worry of players popping in and out, plus weather and all this other stuff, they can really control everything a lot better. And it's going to look better in that regard, no matter what. But there is again, it's their first shot at this. I'm expecting issues, and I'm gonna gladly take them to see where this franchise wants to go.
Yeah, for sure. I want to check in with the chat real quick. We still got a lot to talk about, even with Pokemon and Zelda and other things. But let me just kind of catch up with the chat here, because there's a lot that's been brought up. I'm going to focus on the ads here, guys. Well, actually, I have a super chat from Taker610. Thank you very much, Taker, for the super chat. Breath of the Wild 2, Splatoon 3, and Arceus all Switch Pro games? ?
No.
Yes. So
80 million units. You're not throwing that away.
well, yeah, like
It
what
doesn't mean exclusive. It
Right,
just
yeah.
means, like,
they're gonna be available for both, and they're gonna look and run better on Switch Pro. But I don't think they're exclusive. Yeah,
So will Xenoblade 2.
yeah. It's Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild. All games are gonna look and run better. I do wonder if they will have optimized versions for Switch Pro. Like I imagine Breath of the Wild 2, they
Well, they'll
probably
have to.
will maybe develop with that in mind a little bit more, so that it kind of takes even better advantage of the hardware. But I think across the board, we all seem to agree. I think games are just going to look and run better on the system, even games that have been out for a few years already.
I mean, it depends on how they upgrade it, because you'll have like games, if it's like a normal like GPU and CPU compute upgrade, you'll see games like dynamic resolutions automatically increase. But obviously, if they use something like DLSS, you're not gonna get that unless they do a specific patch. It's not gonna be automatic. So you'll get some automatic improvements, but you'll need patches for like the big improvements, which is kind of what they do with the next gen systems on like PS5 and Xbox Series X as well. It's like you get that boost, but there's a lot of features that don't work in just straight backwards compatibility mode.
Yeah, and I like again, and I wouldn't be surprised to see older games get patches too if they're still like Nintendo has a lot of stuff that's still selling really well.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
their big games. Their big games will get patches. Like what did Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey got VR patches, for example. Like I wouldn't be surprised at least the big ones, like the top 10 sellers, will all get kind of like some sort of patch.
If they do
Yeah.
some sort of enhanced Switch, it's got DLSS. I don't think anyone is debating that you are going to see Animal Crossing in 4K.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd
Like
be
it's just how it's gonna work. They will go back and patch it, even if they didn't even think about it in development. They will go back and patch it and release it, and that's just it. They have to. So, like, I'm at 30 million units, man,
Yeah.
and climbing. Like
Yeah, for sure.
that thing
But-
could break 40 million units easy. Like think about that number for a second. That is
pretty
insanity.
insane.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. The game has still not even been out for a year yet. Want to point that out. And it
No.
still hasn't been
Yeah.
a year. Nuts. It's nuts.
It's like
So
it just
let
comes down
me.
to when are they going to run out of people to sell it to?
Never. I still got several questions I want to get to here. Ronnie Fazio added me. Now that Sony is closing down its Japanese studio, it looks like Nintendo 100% has Japan. It's sad, though, that such a creative Japanese studio with talent is being tossed aside. Sony isn't my strong suit, so I don't want to speak to too much on that, but I will say that Nintendo has had a bit of a stronghold in Japan for a while already. They've kind of gone in on that, you know. You look at how there seems to be a lot more RPGs on Nintendo compared to how it used to be back in the day. JRPGs, they're going in on that. Like you look at like Fire Emblem and Xenoblade, like they kind of are playing off the anime sort of hype. Like now anime is like a lot more popular, right? And they're taking advantage of that. And I don't mean that in any sort of negative way. It's just kind of like Nintendo sort of they're playing to their strengths. They're Japanese, so they are doing things that the world loves about Japanese culture, and it's doing well.
Handheld's king.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? And Sony's never gonna go away. The next Monster Hunter is gonna be on Sony, and there's gonna be players that want to play it.
Mhm.
So it's Monster Hunter. People are gonna switch systems. They'll go play it.
Mhm. Yep. Ice Sonic, I can't wait to see how you feel about Pokemon announcements. So, I mean, we've been talking about Legends of Arceus. It's super exciting. The Diamond and Pearl remakes I haven't talked about too much yet. I'll tell you this: when I saw the leaks, I was like, "Oh, man, I really wanted to see like a Legends of Arceus game come out this year. But I still am excited that we're getting both. Like, I really loved Pokemon Pearl. I like that generation a lot. So to see it sort of renovated, to play it in a more smooth way is going to be nice. It's not a style that I would say I was looking forward to, but it's also, as a lot of people have been making the comparison, it's kind of a lot like Link's Awakening. And, you know, while at first the style was off-putting, it was a nice style to play for that game. So considering that they're kind of keeping to exactly how the game played back in the day, they're not really changing around too much, it seems. This kind of art style, I think, bodes well for that. I think it's going to be quite presentable. It's going to be fun. Now, it does give me Pokemon Let's Go vibes. That's how it kind of feels to me. And I liked Let's Go, but for me, I also like battling. I like the multiplayer aspect of things. I like to use that in a tournament. So I don't know for sure if the Diamond and Pearl remakes are going to be like the future of competitive battling, or if it's going to be more of just like, okay, this is a bit of a stopgap, and if you want to do competitive battling, stick to Sword and Shield. Because that's what they did with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. If you wanted to do competitive battling, you stayed on your 3DS and you did Ultra Sun and Moon, and Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was just kind of more for casual play. I'm not sure what they're doing with Diamond and Pearl yet. I will say that we have already seen that there's some platinum content in the game, because the girl that you use to kind of get the Gracidia flower for Shaman has been spotted in the trailer, which is something that was added in Platinum, the additional game. So it does kind of suggest there's going to be at least the Platinum and extra content in the game. So that's pretty exciting. It does suggest that this isn't the most bare bones remaster remake. It has a little bit more than that. So, you know, that is definitely something that I'm looking forward to. And when you take a look at the descriptions for the game, they do talk about how they want to replicate all of the features from Diamond and Pearl. And what's interesting about that is if they actually hold to what they're saying, that would also mean that there's got to be some decent online play there, because Diamond and Pearl was the first online multiplayer mainline Pokemon game. So if they give us a Let's Go style game that doesn't have that, that would be not really being true to the series, I would say. They got to have your online play there, and I would imagine that they would improve upon it, as they said they will be doing for most of the game in the description. So I'm optimistic that this is going to be a pretty good package for people, and yeah, it's going to be a fun Pokemon game.
I don't know. I'm curious how they're going to go. Again, you have things like World's going to happen. Is that going to happen on the remakes, or is that like you feel just looking at it, you would feel like they would rather put Sword and Shield on stream.
Yeah,
but
like the battles look, because when I play Pokemon Sword and Shield now, right, like I do what I can. Usually my friends help me out to build a team, and then I just go online, and it's like this giant stadium with giant Pokemon and flashy effects. Like, that looks cool. But then you look at like this, and the Pokemon are like right in front of each other. It looks a lot more smaller scale. Granted, we don't know how gym battles are going to be, right? We don't know how online battles are going to be. That may scale up a little bit, right? They may have more of a bigger presentation then. It may still work really well. It kind of goes back to what we were saying about Legends of Arceus and Sword and Shield. What Game Freak shows off immediately isn't necessarily representative of the entire game. There could be a lot of things they're still hiding. So we don't really know yet how this is going to play out. It's actually kind of confusing, because if this is a Let's Go style game, then you would think that they would just have us play Sword and Shield for tournament play until the next big game. But the next big game is coming out months later with Legends of Arceus. And that's the game that's being made by Game Freak. But you look at that and you gotta wonder, is Game Freak ready to have that be the focus of tournament play? My gut says no. While I would love to see some multiplayer there, that's not even confirmed yet. I think there's been some listings suggesting it's single player, but I'm going to hold out judgment on that until we get more details. Point is, though, there's 3 different options, and we don't really have enough information yet to sort of gauge where they're headed in terms of tournament play and competitive battling here. I know not everyone watching necessarily cares for that. Some people do. But either way, I mean, it has implications, because, like, if if Diamond and Pearl Remakes are going to be more like Let's Go style, and ended up being the case that they are going to rely on Legends of Arceus for it to be like for tournament play, then that's huge, because that means they're going to rely on that game to do a lot more. That means the battles in there are going to have to be pretty good and well executed. I'm not sure if they're ready for that, but again, we haven't seen too much of the game yet. We don't know. And that same logic applies for Diamond and Pearl, because we still don't know too much about that either. It's strange. It's strange. I'll say this. Another thing to consider, though, is that let's say they stick with Sword and Shield for tournament play when Diamond and Pearl Remakes come out. And then Legends of Arceus comes out early 2022. And because of that release, we don't actually see a Pokemon game in 2022 beyond that for the mainline series. Then at that point, like, how much longer are you going to stay on Sword and Shield? Like, that would be the longest window staying on one game for tournament play, you know? Especially because we've already been sort of staying a long while on this one because we were getting DLC instead. So it will be weird if we wait until 2023 to change over games for tournament play when Sword and Shield actually came out in 2019. So that leads me to believe that maybe either Diamond and Pearl Remakes or Legends Arceus will be that transition point, but we don't really know. We don't have enough information yet to say. There's 3 options.
I don't know. It's all I can say is you're going to be busy, man. There's going to be a lot of news going on, a lot of things to think about. And
we haven't even talked about all the other Nintendo stuff. It all kind of spirals together here.
Game Freak just wants you not to run out of content. That's what they're doing.
Hey, last year when there was no news, we still managed to come out with several videos a week.
Yep.
I don't know what sort of mental gymnastics we had to do, but we did it. And
now think, you went through that, and now you're going to have too much news, and you're not going to know how to fit everything in.
That's
going to be the next struggle. That's the next one.
That is the struggle. It's too much. It's a lot to talk about. Like, my brain can't really wrap all that can, especially because I have a whole other job. That's distracting. But there's so much going on, guys. But continuing on with the chat here. Armchair analysis. People think because of Pokemon Legends allows Nintendo to kill the PS5 in Japan. Thoughts?
No. It was
kill. I mean, I don't think they were ever going to kill the PS5. I do think it's huge. I do think Pokemon Legends Arceus represents a grandiose opportunity for Pokemon. Pokemon's already a huge seller, but there is definitely a piece of the market it doesn't have. There's a lot of core gamers that aren't a fan of Pokemon, but if they find a way to where Legends of Arceus still ropes in all of the current Pokemon fan base, they also bring in... I'm dying here, sorry. A lot of the players that are kind of upset with Game Freak and Pokemon Company because of the whole National Dex thing. Like, they bring in those players. And then also the people that just don't play Pokemon in general, but they see how this seems like a really cool open world style adventure game, which kind of appeals to Breath of the Wild fans. Then you're bringing all of those fan bases together, and all of a sudden, if they do it right, and I see the potential there, I think there is potential to kind of hit all of those fan bases together. You're looking at something that could very well become the best-selling Pokemon game ever. I'm not saying that's going to... Yeah. It may not be Legends of Arceus. Legends of Arceus may be the bridge game to that, maybe Generation 9. But they are playing around with something here that has even more massive potential than the current Pokemon series, which is like at least a guaranteed 10 million per game. I'll
say that this is the first time I've really ever been hyped for a Pokemon game. There's been times where I've been interested, like, I should try it out, maybe I'll like it. But this is the first time I've looked at a Pokemon game and been like, man, I want to see more of this. This looks awesome.
Yeah. That's exactly, Brandon. Thank you for validating my point. Like, you're not the biggest Pokemon fan. You're seeing this and you're like, whoa, this looks really cool. Give me more of this.
This is what I've wanted Pokemon to go, well, potentially. We still haven't seen a lot of it, but it's going in the direction I've wanted Pokemon to go in for a long time. So
the thing with Pokemon is that they've the reason their franchise is so strong is that they've over the years continually manage to pull in new people. And generally how they do that is they get them young and then they just hold on to them for as long as they can. This is going to be the first time they really reach out and try to grab a demographic that they've never actually chased after. So how well that performs with those groups is going to be really interesting. And then the people that have drifted away from Pokemon over the years because they grew out of it, they moved on, it's not the game for them anymore, to see them come back is going to be rather interesting as well, and see how they feel about it. So they have a lot of potential. The thing is, they're going to lose a lot of kids on that one. Like, not lose, but they're not going to get those sales.
Well, the interesting thing is that it kind of explains more to why they're outsourced Diamond and Pearl and with the chibi style. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, okay, we're having this Pokemon game that's kind of more like the furthest on the spectrum we've ever went towards like a more mature style, right? Because it has that very somber music, darker tones. It's like, it's more of a, I don't want to say, it's not a post-apocalyptic Pokemon world, but it's more of a
pre-apocalyptic.
It's a very wild form of the Pokemon world, right?
Yeah. Feudal Japan.
Right. So I'm not trying to say that there's a lot of suggestive themes that are more mature, but it is more on that end of the spectrum, right? Compared to any other Pokemon game. And then they probably thought, okay, well, we do have to sort of appeal to our younger fan base as well. So what do? You take Diamond and Pearl remakes, something that people have been begging for a very long time, and you still stay true to the original, which I think there is some honor in that, but you chibi it up, so it still kind of, it appeals, it's like on the other end of the spectrum, you know what I mean? So you got both sides. You have a very cutesy Pokemon game, more cutesy than Sword and Shield, kind of more like Let's Go, maybe even more cutesy than that.
It's more cutesy than Let's Go.
Yeah.
And then it's similar. And this Legends Arceus game is like the most hardcore Pokemon game we've ever seen. It's two ends of the spectrum here. And so by doing both, and they're coming out probably within about 6 months of each other, 9 months at most, like, you're going to be able to kind of capture both audiences.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to see sales and who latches on and how well the games are received.
Absolutely.
I wanted to say, on the topic of the Diamond Pearl remakes, on how they look, because the style's kind of controversial-ish. I think it looks good. I actually like the style and the chibiness. I think it works. It almost looks like exactly how you would think the original game would look like in 3D, because it's like the same proportions.
Right.
You got those like little itty bitty chibi characters in the original too. So I think that actually looks cool, and it's a different art style than before, which I like. They're kind of going for that Zelda thing where like each game has its own art style, which I think is cool.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little different.
I'll say like people compare it a lot to Link's Awakening, which I don't get because like they're both chibi art styles, but Link's Awakening had like a lot of very modern graphical features. The lighting was very nice. It had that global illumination, I think.
Link's Awakening
global illumination
is impressive.
It had
graphically.
It is. It had that super nice depth of field. It had a lot of like new graphical features, but it was a very modern engine that they were using. But for this, there's not really any of those like modern features. You don't see like depth of field or anything like that. So I would say in that way the styles aren't really similar at all.
No, but it's kind of like Pokemon in general. Whatever you compare Pokemon to Zelda, it's always going to pale in comparison. You know, that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah. So I like the style. Yeah. I just wish it had a few more modern flourishes. That would look really nice.
Well, I mean, it's worth definitely don't think it looks bad. It's not complete yet, right? So I do imagine it will look a little bit sharper by the time the game comes out. I'm not saying it's gonna be significant, but I expect
a little bit. But
yeah,
it's probably gonna look super close.
Yeah,
like I'll be honest, like I was not a fan of. Well, I did not like the look of the characters in Link's Awakening. I did like the look of the environments, and I'm not a big fan of these remakes look. It's not something that would stop me from playing the game. It didn't stop me from playing Link's Awakening. It's not going to stop me from playing the remakes, but it's not personally what I find appealing. But
Yeah.
you get over it. Like as soon as you start playing it, you get over it pretty quick.
Yeah. It's also interesting because, like, we don't know for a fact yet, but we haven't seen signs of roaming Pokemon or things of that nature. Like, it looks like they're staying very true to that original gameplay style, which is it's a big step backwards, right? But the idea is that it's meant to be like this is not where they're headed. It's just kind of like, hey, this is how the game was way back when.
Yeah, I think there's a big chunk of the audience that actually doesn't like all the changes, so I think this might appeal to them. Like, there's some people who don't like roaming Pokemon or the wild area or anything like that. They want their random encounters and they want things to be like normal. So I think they might be trying to appeal to that audience, especially with Arceus being so different.
Which game do you think sells more?
Probably Arceus.
I don't
still
know.
think that if there is a significant audience, then I think even if it doesn't do as well, they should still cater to them in some form.
Oh, wow, that's a rough question.
Diamond Pearl Remakes have a lot in favor of it because, one, this has been a long time fan requested game for years. It's fine. It's a meme, you know. Sinnoh confirmed, right? And then it's coming on the holiday. But then this Legends of Arceus game, it's a different thing, you know. It's experimental. A lot of Pokemon fans are scared of that experimentation. So you're not going to get every Pokemon fan trying, or maybe you will, because you could also argue it's kind of like appealing to like that fanboy dream of what a Pokemon game could be, right?
Yeah.
So there's things going for both. I mean, to me, I think to most core gamers, I think most people agree Legends of Arceus is a more exciting prospect. But there's a lot of other more casual fans who'll be like, nope, this is what I want, this is what I know I want, it's what I've enjoyed for years, and this is what I'll continue to enjoy.
I think if Arceus at least partially lives up to the hype, it will sell better. Because I think the Breath of the Wild Pokemon is like the holy grail that everybody is waiting for, right? That's what people want.
Yeah.
I'll say the one that's going to sell better depends entirely on Legends.
Like
Diamond, like the remakes are not going to sell more than that. Legends is either going to sell more or sell less. The remake is not in the equation whatsoever. The remake's going to sell what the remake's going to sell. That's never going to change. But again, like you're looking at it and it's like they're making a big jump, you know, and to say, well, the remakes, everyone loves the remakes, it's going to sell more. It's like, well, why don't we talk about Monster Hunter World then? Like, you make a big jump like that, you make a big splash, and everyone sees it and really gets behind it. It comes out and it's still looking great and it's reviewing really well, and then all of a sudden that takes off, and then you're like 25 million units later, and it's I don't know, it's tough to say it to be perfectly honest.
If Arceus is good and it doesn't sell well, my God, that's it's gonna be a big.
No, there's no way it's gonna sell well. I think it has to sell at least 10 million. Like that, I don't see it not doing that. Provided it's not a trash heap dumpster fire, right? Like,
Yeah.
If it is, it still sells 8 million.
yeah.
Let's be realistic.
Yeah, but like
it can be garbage. It still sell that much.
Theoretically has potential to rival Sword and Shield.
Well,
Theoretically.
let's put it this way. Let's Go sold 8 million units.
I thought it sold 10 plus million.
Did it? I was pretty sure it was 8 million.
Well, I mean,
I could be wrong
I guess
though.
it depends on the timing, but I mean, you know, 10 million, it sold a lot.
Yeah, like you're still like, and that's Let's Go, and people were angry about that. Like there was a lot of outrage over Let's Go, and it still sold extremely well. And by the way,
People were super angry
like
about Sword and
it
Shield.
was good.
It's the best. It's like the third best selling Pokemon game of all time. So
It's nuts.
yeah.
And that was like with a whole campaign trying to get people to not buy it, where people were like legit telling people, it's like, go out and don't lie, but imply not truth very heavily. Like it was a weird
I
time,
remember
man. It was so weird.
Apparently, Let's Go sold to 13 million.
13. Wow.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How old was the one I was looking at? My goodness.
Sword and Shield's at 20 plus though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. How many Switch games have broken 20 million?
Mario Odyssey, Sword and Shield, Breath of the Wild, Smash, Animal Crossing, Mario Kart, which is 6. If you count
many
Sword
of
and Shield
those?
as 2 games, it's 7, but we don't.
How many of those broke 30 million?
2. Mario Kart.
The Switch is selling crazy amounts of software.
I think PlayStation. I think I saw a number that like PS4 has only one title over 20 million, while the Switch has 6, and it's over 100 million sold. Has been out for several more years.
And the title that's at like basically just broken 20 million was GTA 5. So it's not even a Sony game.
Yeah. Just kind of goes to show the
Like Nintendo's got some
awesomeness of
powerful
Switch and how
IPs.
people buy games on Switch. People play games on Switch, right? What's interesting about Xbox and PlayStation, they are entertainment systems. I use my PlayStation for a lot. More than half the time, it's to watch anime or Netflix or Disney Plus. I play games on it. Don't get me wrong. I play games and I use my PS4. Okay, there's lots of great games on there. God of War, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Uncharted. Like, you know, I'm about to play Nier Automata. Like, there are games, you know, but when my Switch is on, I am playing games. Like, that is what it is. And that's what it does. It does really well with it. But I want to continue. There is so much. Honestly, we're just scratching the surface here. We had a 3-hour plus podcast last week, and there's still things we could cover from last week. Like, we are scratching the surface here. There's still so much I want to cover. But let me kind of try and kind of speed through some of the chat here. Let's see here. Ice Sonic added me. What about that rumor about Monolith making a Zelda spin-off game? Well, maybe that rumor is from me. It's not. It's more like speculation. Well, there's some credibility there because they were hiring for a Zelda game. That is factual. That's not rumor. The speculation is that Zelda game they were hiring for just for Breath of the Wild 2 assistance, or is it for something else? At which point then it is spin-off, right? Which kind of makes me wonder. Let's say Breath of the Wild 2 doesn't make it out this year. What if they will still want to kind of hardcore celebrate Zelda's 35th anniversary? What if they do have like a really cool new Zelda spin-off for the holidays? You know? If it's made by Monolith Soft, it could be kind of more of like an MMO RPG style kind of Zelda game. Not saying it has to be an MMO, but you know, Nintendo is sort of setting up new online service this year. They may want to do some things to push that. Maybe that's one way they go. It would also be kind of a multiplayer kind of Zelda thing. There's some potential there, right? I'm spitballing ideas, but the point is Monolith Soft does have something, and they were hiring for Zelda. Theoretically, they could have a Zelda spinoff. Doesn't have to be Zelda. Could be something else, but it's not out of the question. Moving on here. I'm assuming you guys have nothing to add to that.
It could just be Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah.
It could just be the Zelda team wants Monolith Soft to be with every single major 3D game from here on out, and they decided they were going to beef up the number of people they had for it.
Yep. I mean, Monolith Soft does a lot of back-end work for Nintendo. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And a lot of credits in 2017.
Hello there, Yassine. I see. I got another one from Ice Sonic. That cloud above the mountain in Pokémon Legends Arceus is a space and time hole opening, if I'm not wrong. Could be. We've seen that in different Pokemon games. It might be related to our Arceus or Arceus himself.
Pretty
like,
sure
how do we?
Clouds.
I don't know, but we'll cross that bridge at another time. Birdman. In the Pokemon Sword and Shield website, it says that the wild area is only the beginning. Absolutely. We've been
Very
talking
true.
about for a while that, like, when you see what Game Freak does, they're doing that for a reason. They're building upon it. You go back to Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. When they put in roaming Pokemon, we talked about it. That it probably wasn't the last time we'd see roaming Pokemon. It was something they were experimenting with. What happened? Sword and Shield, roaming Pokemon. You see the wild area, what do they do with the DLC? Fully wild area. Now you see what they're doing with Legends of Arceus. Fully open world game. What does that mean for Generation 9? A more polished, more better executed open world game. That's
can
the
go back
direction
to-
they're headed in.
We can go back to Sword and Shield, where they started adding, implementing different options after you caught a Pokemon. It just wasn't automatic. It was terrible in that game because it was just menu heavy on a slow game already, on a slow system that couldn't handle the menu so well. You put that on the Switch, and suddenly it's a really nice quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a lot of quality improvements. I think there's still more to do. Like, I hate it when you catch a Pokemon, it just goes into a random box. Like, wish you could be like, oh, go to box 1, go to box 2, you know? So I want more organization options with that.
Yep.
Ronnie Fazio. The thing I'm most looking forward to about Legends is the lore world building. For example, in Sun and Moon, there's a town that was established by foreigners from Johto. That's a really interesting point there. What's exciting about this is that, it's going away from the normal formula, and maybe they won't be focusing on the typical gym battles evil team. There's more to it than that. We'll learn more about the world. This could be a time where Arceus does some crazy things to the world that has implications for the future of Pokemon, and they can sort of, give us more context to why the way the Pokemon world is the way it is. I've been seeing this meme lately on Twitter, because apparently in Diamond and Pearl, there is this thing where there's a book somewhere, I think, that says there in a time long ago, people would marry Pokemon and Pokemon would marry people, or something like that. And it depends on the translation. Like in the Western translation, it was just like the Pokemon would have dinner together. But like, I wonder, like, I don't think we're gonna see relationships between Machamp and
Kinda
people.
Scared where you going with this?
Oh my god.
No, but that's where the memes are alluding to, right? And there is lore within Pokemon that does talk about that. So I'm not just pulling this out of nowhere, and I don't think they're gonna specifically do that. I think they're gonna just kind of ignore that. But in fact, it'll be interesting to see what the translation is in the remake. But I am curious to see, what sort of interactions we'll see in this feudal time period of Pokemon, right? Like, we're not going to be able to use modern items. How will they have Pokemon centers? Will there be Pokemon centers? What if they use, like, geishas or something that replace Nurse Joyce, There's a lot of possibilities there. Maybe you rely more on camping and things of that nature. There's so much they can do with that, so I'm definitely very excited about that. And I have seen some people suggest that we might see new Pokemon in the game. I'm not really expecting that, but maybe a couple new forms potentially. There's so much they can do. I'm very excited for the lore building as well.
I want to see who wrote the story.
Is that available yet? We're gonna have to wait.
No, that's gonna be the
Yeah.
wait. I was trying to see who was in on the other story, but I don't believe their name came up at any point in time.
Okay.
Because Masuda was on the list for the remake, was he not?
Yes, because Masuda did
So
the original
he's
Diamond
not-
and Pearl, so he's overseeing this remake as well.
So he's not overseeing Legends.
Can't he do both?
Maybe. Not usual.
I don't know.
But I would really like to see someone else take a swing at it. I would also really like to see a different story writer. I would love to see like a actual in-depth story in that game, something interesting and not
I think
not as like they're going for a more mature audience, have a more mature story. It doesn't have to be like overly mature and like crazy and like tons of people dying or anything.
maybe one does.
Not like they've really
Yeah.
does.
I think
you
the
know, but,
lack
like-
of gyms might give them a lot more freedom.
I hope so.
Story.
I hope it pushes the need, because one thing Pokemon's been weak about for quite a while is that their story is it's a concept. It's not really that much of a story. So I would love to see them actually push and do story writing. Like to me, Game Freak is in the Pokemon games aren't missing like an army of people. They're missing like one specific person in a place here or there, like dealing with their online. Why does Sword and Shield take over my entire console to the point where I can't look at my friends list because I'm playing Sword and Shield? You know, why are their stories weak? Like, this isn't like, you don't need a team for this. They just need to catch a few hires here and there, and suddenly the game really gets a massive boost. But I feel like they're very loyal to the people that have been with them for so long. And but if they move some people off to side projects to oversee, say, a remake, and then they give someone else a chance, then this actually creates an opportunity for not just someone else to show what they can do, but for us to see what the game could look like under someone else's direction.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, if you look at development for the Pokemon games, they do slowly transition from one director to another. So there is that, we do kind of see the change of pace, and to the point of this game appealing more to a core audience, and because there's no, but apparently, but it wouldn't surprise me if they may not have gyms, they may have like tribe leaders instead, you know, and you get like tattoos or something to mark your progress, and instead of there being an Elite Four, there is a mountain challenge. Like, I'm just saying, like, we've seen this story before. We've seen this story before. Yeah.
There's no gyms, but there's 4. They don't have 8 gyms, but they have 4 challenges and 4 kahunas. Like,
I really think and I hope that this is just them being like, nope, we're not doing any bullshit tricks like that. We are really actually doing something.
I mean,
different.
I don't dislike those elements, but it doesn't. I want there to still be battles. There's still gotta be battles.
Yeah.
Of
course.
And it'd be weird if it was just wild Pokemon.
Well,
because that takes away from a lot of the strategy. But again, we don't even know if this will be
feudal
multiplayer.
Sinnoh. But it is like feudal Sinnoh, so
there might be.
It's not like feudal Japan didn't have anyone. Like there was fighting going on. There is a village.
If anything, it was more.
Villages
chaotic.
can be in danger.
Yeah.
Like,
there's tons of story reasons for fights.
You could go like wander through the wilderness, come across a town that needs your help. Then you need to help the town from some sort of big Pokemon. Like, oh well, hey, it just adds to the Pokedex.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, we're getting harassed by a legendary. Go deal with it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not what I wanted to do today.
there is like a lot of potential to do things like that. I got this super chat here from Ridiculous Richie 89. Thank you very much, Richie. Love your stuff, Andres. When you hitting the Spawncast, keep up the fantastic work. Always looking forward to this podcast. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I don't know if I got invited to Spawncast, I would gladly go on. Absolutely. So, you know, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but that'd be cool. I will point out, though, we currently are hovering around 90-95 viewers. So it'd be cool if we could get over 100 tonight, guys. So share the stream, be really appreciated. But let's continue on the chat here, and then we'll continue on with the other topics. It's all sort of like intertwined, so it's kind of hard to be like, let's just move on to the next one because they're all kind of connected. Sinus Joe, have you seen the leaked screenshots? Are you referring to like what we kind of covered earlier in the podcast, but there was like we saw like silhouettes of like ride Pokemon and things of that nature, suggesting more platforming options. We did discuss that earlier, if that's what you're alluding to. Moving on here. ASAP Rel. Sony themselves don't seem like they care too much about the Japanese market. Nintendo's stomping them in Japan anyways. We kind of touched on this before. You know, Sony has big projects. Even if they don't have like a studio right there, like they have stuff coming.
What are they going to do? They don't have a handheld and they can't compete. Like, what are you going to do when they start dropping like Pokemon like this, Animal Crossing, Smash, Zelda, Splatoon? Like, what? How are you going to compete with a handheld in Japan against Nintendo right now? I wouldn't want to do it. You're just throwing your money away.
They do well enough in the other
Bring back the
markets
Vita.
to make up for it,
PlayStation
so-
Vita 2.0 Pro Switch Super. Got it.
They're also not as hurting as a company as they used to be
Mm-hmm.
because their cameras are now selling. So they have other means of income now. It's not just PlayStation making the money and everything else is bleeding money. The days of PlayStation and insurance are kind of past at the moment.
Let's see here. Ronnie Fazio. If you could add one character to Smash Ultimate as an assist trophy, who would it be? I would go with Riley Miller from Sega's Valkyrie Chronicles 4. So you're saying to add an assist trophy, one assist trophy. Oh, that's a good question.
Navi, because I want to see the internet burn.
Oh, that'd be funny. That's a good one. Yeah, that'd be cool. Given that there's only 2 more characters left, it wouldn't surprise me if there's one more Nintendo character and one more third-party character, but it's kind of hard. I'm gonna assume that Silex is not one of them from Metroid. So I'd like to see Silex added as an assist trophy. Considering his shot coil, he could definitely do some interesting things with like pulling people and stuff and items. So I think that would be a nice one to see. Not to mention there's like some hints towards the relationship between Samus and Silex. So like depending on when it's used, there could be like in its reveal trailer, there could be like Silex like helping out Samus or combating against Samus. So it'll be interesting.
I'd like to see Frog from Chrono Trigger. Just because.
Okay.
Really no other reason.
I mean, it's kind of it makes sense.
It's just cool.
Yeah. Yeah. 610. Added me. Dumo is Arlo confirmed. Didn't like Link's Awakening. Well, let me ask you, Dumo. Did you also think that Nintendo Directs were dead?
Actually, for a while I did quite a bit.
Oh, maybe you really are.
Quite a bit actually. Like they basically said they were moving away from them. So I was like, well, they're gonna say they're moving away from them, and we haven't seen one in ages. It makes sense that they're moving away from them.
Huh.
I also don't turn around to every game release and like tear it apart though, so a little bit different.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I quite enjoyed Pokemon.
Yeah, Pokemon's
So,
great. But let's sorry guys, I just want to move on because we are over an hour and a half in, and we have a lot to cover. And so basically we're gonna start transitioning over to kind of like talking about Nintendo's 2021 plan. I made a video on this a couple days ago. I think some of you saw it already, but basically I was questioning what will come out first, Breath of the Wild 2 or Pokémon Legends Arceus, because it's strange because this is a year, Zelda's 35th anniversary. We're seeing a lot of signs that Nintendo may want to celebrate it, but there are also rumors suggesting that maybe Breath of the Wild 2 will be coming out beyond this fiscal year, which I find kind of mind-boggling to consider, because at that point it would mean that this game would be taking longer than initial Breath of the Wild, which I understand is a pandemic to consider as well, but that's just, it's hard. Like, imagine if Breath of the Wild, if some of these people are right and Breath of the Wild 2 comes out like March 2023. The game started development in 2017. They're using the same engine as Breath of the Wild and just enhancing it. It's still in Hyrule. The game shouldn't take more than 5 years.
The whole purpose was to reuse the world.
Right, to get it done faster.
Like, again, it would be a shame putting this much work into the world to just toss it aside. It's like, so you're reusing the world? It's gonna
take you more than half a decade?
I would be really surprised if it didn't come out this year, and I would be really surprised if they didn't just like drop it a few months before and there's a big announcement trailer and it just went full on viral. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to see how viral they can get something to go this year on the internet.
So and that's the interesting thing. Like, I think when you assume that Breath of the Wild 2 at the latest should come like March 2022, and then you consider that Legends Arceus is coming out early 2022, and how Breath of the Wild like it is, I don't think they're coming out in the same month or even right next to each other, like February, March. I don't think that. So then that sort of begs the question, which one is coming out first, right? Like, let's say I'm right and Legends Arceus comes out March 2022, which I don't think is crazy, because if it ends up coming out like summer 2022, that's not out of the question, but we've never seen Game Freak announce a game so far in advance, you know? So it leads me to believe that it's coming sooner than later, right?
Is it supposed to be early 2022, or
Yes.
did I?
Yes.
Okay,
Early
that's
2022,
summer is not early.
Some people might argue that June
Yeah,
is still
it's-
first half of 2022, so it's still early.
Companies'
Right.
Not early,
idea
that's
of
mid.
early is often
Yeah.
not our idea of early.
Right, but
Early to me, once the moment it
I
turns
agree.
to May, you can't call it early anymore. Like April should be pushing it. Technically, early should be like
I think anything
In
the
March,
first half could be called
but
early.
I
Not if you're
feel
a
like
sensical person, but if you're a company, hell yeah.
right, but let's
well,
just
yeah, if you want to
before the
twist words,
first
like
yeah, like it
Which is
could
what they do,
be
but-
then, right? But what is your impression? When do you so forget about Breath of the Wild 2 for a second. Just forget about that for a second. Based off what we know, when do you think Legends of Arceus is coming out?
I'd say March or April.
Okay.
I'd agree.
We all agree. Okay, so then
Yeah.
if it comes out, let's just say March for the sake of my argument, right? Where does it make sense to put Breath of the Wild 2 then? If you assume that go past this fiscal year no longer makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's coming out this year, man.
I
It's
feel like it's got to
October,
be holiday.
November.
Okay. Not everyone believes that. A lot of people think that Breath of the Wild 2 isn't going to make it then. I don't agree with that, but when a lot of insiders are like, I don't think so, you have to at least consider that as a possibility. Now, there is, to be
Right.
fair, no one's saying it's not happening. Like, there's no insider that's like, I got official information telling me that it's not happening. That's not what's going on right now. It's just a speculation amongst people who have insider knowledge and such, is just that, that it doesn't seem likely for this time. I see this is...
It could also it could also come down to they're just not hearing anything, and if they're not hearing anything, they just straight up think it's not coming right now.
Right.
And that to me would make perfect sense. But at the same time, if Nintendo's being super quiet about it and they actually have things like people actually aren't going out of their way, that's a lot of people. It's
Yeah.
a lot of people that have nothing leak.
I'll
But
say
at the
that-
same time, if they happen to manage it, they could sneak up on you. It could be a huge thing.
Yeah.
I just
Hold that thought for a second, because I want to address one quick little thing, because I have been saying this a lot. So Super Chris, our mod, thank you, added me and said it's pronounced Arceus, not Arceus. So you're not wrong. Okay, in the trailer they say Arceus. I get that. I understand that. But in Pokemon, there is the RKS system, which is the Pokemon that Arceus becomes Silvally. That is a Pokemon that was made off the genetic code of Arceus. So when you look at Legends Arceus, right, I just think it's cool to say Arceus because it's like archaic, old Pokemon. And when you have a Pokemon that's taking genetic code from Arceus and it's called RKS system, like that is... I think I see my point here. So, but I hear you. In the trailer, they do call it Arceus, to be fair. But to go back to your point, in terms of like what may happen and how people are suggesting it's not happening and it's been so quiet and such, a lot of people were saying that there wouldn't be a Nintendo Direct in February. It would be a while. I wasn't, though. I was like, nope. I think it's happening in February. Why do I think it's happening in February? Because if you look at what's coming out and what hasn't been announced and the window and the need to talk about Zelda and the Pokemon stuff, I think it's happening the week before the final week of February. What happened? Got it. It happened. It made sense. But most people didn't think it was happening based off insider knowledge. So, yes, I'm totally gloating here. Totally showboating here. Absolutely am. But I'm doing it with good reason, I feel, because my point is that just because a lot of people are saying something and these people are smart and educated and know what they're talking about doesn't mean they're always right. Albert Einstein came up with some crazy ideas that eventually became widely accepted. But most of his peers did not agree with him for a very, very long time. He was an outcast. Sometimes you gotta dare to think for yourself and not just ride with what the world is telling you. Of course, you have to value that because that's important information. It needs to be part of your calculation there, but it's not the be-all, end-all. So, just because everyone's saying Breath of the Wild 2 won't come out in 2021 doesn't mean it won't. Not saying it will, though. It's hard to say, but, I think it's still a possibility.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. I feel like at this point in time, we don't know anything for holiday this year, and I feel like they're holding off to try to get some stuff sold before we find out about holiday. And I feel like Zelda's gonna have to be it, and if not, it's gonna have to be next holiday next year. I think it goes in 2023 to reuse a map. Like, are you kidding me? Like, what went wrong if that's the case?
They better
and even next year. What went wrong to have it go that long?
Wrong, or they were ridiculously ambitious, and this is
or
just some craziness going on.
And hear me out on this.
Age of Calamity.
They're putting in a ton of work, and they can't do it as quickly as they were before because Monolith is busy with something else.
Maybe.
The
Because
Zelda
Monolith
RPG
did
MMO?
Monolith did a lot of heavy lifting for Breath of the Wild.
Oh, I see
And
what you're
if
saying.
they-
Because
if
they
they
haven't had
needed-
as much help. Okay.
And
I
if
get what
if
you're
they
saying.
if they were busy doing, say, I don't know, 2 other IPs and they couldn't help with as much, 2 other IPs while also possibly helping Splatoon 3 come out like they did with Splatoon 2, they might not have had as many people. And that could be part of it, but even then you're reusing a map. You're reusing the world. You're shuffling things around on a map. Yes, it's going to take time, but does it take as much time as building an entirely new map?
It's
They kind of be doing some crazy.
I mean,
stuff.
obviously,
Like, I
COVID
imagine
has
they're
impacted
really...
things too, right? But how much?
Yeah.
How much
Sure,
more?
but I imagine only a few months. I
I-
have to think that they're doing something crazy, like adding some new stuff to the physics engine, like for underwater,
Yeah.
or for flight, or for any number of different abilities that you could have. I'm sure that this game... I mean, there's no way this game comes out and it's not, like, massively ambitious and very different from the original. Because with the time that they've already taken, they could release it tomorrow and have enough time to have made something fantastic that just has just so much new content.
Yeah. The other thing, right, is that you guys are talking about how much changes and improvements they can do for Breath of the Wild 2. Like, you look at Arceus Legends. It's very Zelda-like. It's very Breath of the Wild-like. And also it has a lot of feudal Japan era stuff too, which is very Monster Hunter Rise-like. Like, it's fine, but it just makes me wonder, like, you can't just completely use this motif for every single game you have on your system, Like, I wonder how similar Breath of the Wild 2 will be. Like, is Breath of the Wild 2 going to feel very different from Breath of the Wild 1? Like, it's going to have a completely different feel? It would just be strange to have this Breath of the Wild, like, Pokemon game come out within months of Breath of the Wild 2, especially if Breath of the Wild 2 doesn't change that much. Like, it just makes me wonder that, Breath of the Wild 2 is probably is gonna be like the Majora's Mask to the Ocarina of Time,
Except taking just as much time to make.
Except just taking as much time to make, apparently. Yeah. Because it's gotta... I feel it's gonna feel, like, really, really different. Another element to consider here, though, is because of this, we are getting all these 2022 announcements. We still don't know about anything. There's August to December. What's coming out in that window, right? We know about Splatoon 3, Triangle Strategy, and Legends Arceus for 2022, but what's coming in that window? We know about Diamond and Pearl, but it's a conservative remaster remake that's been outsourced. And even if you assume it's like a big mainline Pokemon game that hasn't been outsourced and it's very ambitious, if you look at every year when a Pokemon game comes out, it's not the only thing for the holidays. Last year, Crown Tundra October, November had Age of Calamity deals, Age of Calamity, and that was a pandemic year that was like the worst year for the Switch in terms of like Nintendo releases. 2019, Sword and Shield, brand new generation. The month before, Luigi's Mansion 3. 2018, November, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. December, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. An even bigger seller than that. We go back to 2017. There wasn't Pokemon game on Switch, but in November we had Ultra Sun and Moon come out on the 3DS. October was Super Mario Odyssey. December was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. You see my point? Like, there's more than just Pokemon coming out every year. Because I've seen this argument a lot that people are saying, oh, Pokemon will be the holiday release for Nintendo. Every single year, it's more than just Pokemon. And considering this is an outsourced Pokemon game, and the big deal is coming out after the holidays, Nintendo's gotta have something else. It may not be Zelda, but there's gotta be something else. Which brings me to some rumors we've been hearing. The rumors are that we're getting a 2D Metroid. We've been talking about this. The game that's supposedly been developed by Mercury Steam. Cool. But it's a side-scrolling Metroid game. It's going to look great. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be exciting. But it's still a side-scrolling Metroid game. There's also rumors of the Odyssey team working on a new Donkey Kong game. But the rumors suggest it's more of a 2D, 2.5D Donkey Kong game. A side-scrolling Donkey Kong game. Exciting. Really good. I'm going to buy both these games. And I'll love the heck out of them. They may be 10 out of 10s for me. But I think you understand my point here. The ambition behind them isn't like a Breath of the Wild or a Mario Odyssey or a Smash Ultimate. You understand? So you have this conservative outsourced remaster of Diamond and Pearl, or Remake. You have a side-scrolling Metroid, side-scrolling Donkey Kong, which are going to be great. And then some people are speculating maybe we get Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD. Games that came out on the Wii U. All nice things, but does that warrant the second half of 2021? Is that the kind of lineup you want to compete against the next God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn and Halo Infinite? I don't think so. I think there's got to be more than that. Like, that's all great, but there's got to be more than that.
Yeah, I don't. There has to be something else. And again, like, what's the Odyssey team doing? Like, they've had enough time to produce another game. They could drop something this year. But again, if the rumor's right and you're looking at basically a side scroller, you're going to need something else. Like, it's a pretty weak lineup right? for this year. Maybe the rumor is slightly off, and maybe it's a 3D Donkey Kong game.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that would be epic. Like, so I just want to be clear about this, right? I will be super excited for a 2D Donkey Kong game. I will be maybe crying for joy if we get Metroid 5 announced, a 2D Metroid game. Like, I am super excited for these things. I'm simply talking about scope and ambition and optics and marketing. Like, you gotta have more than that. You get my point, right? Like, am I crazy here?
Oh, yeah. No, not at all. They definitely, like, again, you're gonna be looking at Sony's gonna... I would have to imagine Sony's gonna hit heavy this year.
Mm-hmm.
They have to. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo has something ready to announce and they're just waiting for the day after Sony announces something big just to take the wind out of their sails. We have this. We have Breath of the Wild 2. Boom.
Legend of Zelda 35th anniversary.
Go.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull that just to stay on top in the news.
I don't know if Nintendo... They definitely have had reactionary stuff, especially a lot last year.
Origami.
But they also didn't have a lot of big things.
Mm-hmm.
And they definitely didn't have anything as big as Breath of the Wild. And I definitely don't think that they're just sitting around waiting willy-nilly like, oh, hopefully Sony will announce something so that we can show off Breath of the Wild 2. I'm sure that they have like a legit plan of exactly when and how they're going to announce that. and have that all mapped out, because Breath of the Wild, I think, is just too much of a big deal, and I think they want to announce it on their terms. So I don't think that they're actually waiting for Sony to do something. They might have other announcements that they're waiting to do that with, but not for Zelda.
There is, so I'm noticing in the chat, there is another game that is rumored for this year, which I do think makes sense, a Fire Emblem remake. But it's a remake.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still... You look what's pushing your console through the holiday.
No.
Against next gen, like proper next gen, not just came out and there's no stock next gen.
Now, to be fair though, if you think of it like this, like say you get one of these games per month, right? So let's say August we get the Fire Emblem remake, September we get the 2D Metroid, October we get the Donkey Kong game, in November we get the Diamond and Pearl remake. Like those are all nice games. It works. I just, it still kind of goes back to what we're discussing. Like, they will have something.
You're missing like an entire segment of gamers at that point. Like, if you're looking at bringing out remakes and like 2D games, like side scrollers, like yes, they're good games. Yes, they're going to sell a lot, but you're missing like a whole demographic that does not buy those.
You gotta mix it. It's gotta be a balance.
It just seems like a weak lineup. Like, yes, it's strong for this demographic. It's just like right now the Switch is looking really strong for RPGs, but there has to be other things, or else they can't just release RPGs for a year and a half. Like, they're gonna have to release and they are going to release other things. So it just seems weird to think of them going into a holiday with a huge year of remakes and side scrollers. Like, they can probably do it and get away with it. It just seems very odd to me to think that they would.
Yeah,
especially with the landscape that we're in right now.
It just like, considering the argument of, let's say, early 2022, they just come out swinging, right? They have Breath of the Wild 2. It comes out alongside the Switch Pro. So what if like February for the Pokemon anniversary they release Legends Arceus, like early February or something, then late March they release Breath of the Wild 2 on the Switch Pro. So it's like a 6-week window there, and then like May they have Splatoon 3, and June they have Triangle Strategy. Like that's a strong window. They would have missed out on holiday 2021 to an extent in terms of like having like that big oomph there, but that's a possibility. Now, my reservations about that is because the Switch has been out since 2017, and this Switch Pro is a mid-gen refresh. Think of it as kind of like a new Nintendo 3DS, where Nintendo started to push that as kind of like the default system. Yes, it was an enhancement. Games looked and ran better on it, and that'll be nice, but it wasn't meant to be like a next generation system, right? It's like a stopgap before they move on like 3 years later. So how much longer do you take for that, right? Because if it comes out March 2022, what is Nintendo going to do? Are they going to wait until November 2023 to come out with a next gen Switch? Like, sure, we're talking about a 4-month gap here. I'm actually thinking sooner. I think I would actually think Switch Pro could come out like this year, before November. Like I would feel like an October Breath of the Wild 2 Switch Plus release would be ideal.
And held back. That's the other thing too, because if they were going to push a refresh with Breath of the Wild 2, they're not going to announce it 6 months out and then just have their sales for their console plummet for the next 6 months.
No, they're going to announce it like a month or two beforehand, I think.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's a really quick build up to a Breath of the Wild 2. Really quick
for this machine. I think they got away with a quicker, reveal to release with the Switch Lite. That was also a much cheaper system. I think if there's going to be like a $300 to potentially upwards of $400 system, they're going to have to give you more time, because they got to get people to save up and get their money ready and shit.
I feel like like Switch to Switch Lite wasn't as big of a deal in that regard. Like if you bought a Switch and then the Switch Lite came out and you're like, oh, I wish I bought the cheaper one, is a lot different than, oh, I bought a Switch and then, some Switch Pro comes out that does 4K and you're like, I have a 4K TV. If I would have known that, I would have bought that. Like, I feel like that would
Missing
hurt.
another holiday without talking about it when it's coming is, I do think that's a little strange. Like, so like I see your point, right? Like, let's say hypothetically, let's say Switch Pro comes out in March, and Brandon, you're right. They need to kind of have more time to announce it. Did they announce it in January? Then they announced it in January, weeks after Christmas, and people are like, what the hell? I just bought this Switch. It's not 4K. I hate you, Nintendo. Right? Like, it's a tricky, right? Because at least when the Switch was a thing, right? When we got the Switch first look in 2016, that was in October, if I'm not mistaken. The Wii U was dead, so it was okay to announce it then. Because they weren't going to get a lot of sales anyway with the Wii U, right? So it made sense to announce it then, have a big event in January, and then come out with March. Like that made sense. But if you announce, but if you can't do that for a Switch Plus Pro in October of this year and expect people to still buy a whole bunch of Switches during the holidays. Some people will, but when there's like that promise of a better product in the next year, that timing doesn't work out.
I mean, I guess, but they've done that they did that for the new 3DS.
When did they announce the new 3DS?
For the Xbox One X. It was like E3 or something.
And did it come out past Christmas?
Yeah, it came out like the next year.
Yeah, they did it with the Xbox One X, but Xbox sales suffered greatly during that time period.
So they could do it, but it might not be a good idea, though.
They did it with the PS4 Pro as well. It's just...
Let me look this up.
It's not like... I don't know. They did that. They usually do that. So
you're in a bad situation because no matter what, when you announce it, your sales are going to drop, and there's nothing you can do about it. The question is, how long do you need in order to have people not be angry?
No. PlayStation 4 Pro announced September 7th, 2016. Released November 10th, 2016. They didn't skip the holiday for PS4 Pro announcement. Let's look at Xbox One X.
Oh, I didn't say to skip the holiday for that.
Well, the point is that if they had, that would have been bad.
Oh, yeah.
We knew about the Scorpio for a while.
But those are rumors. There's a difference between rumors and official announcement, right?
No, but we knew...
I thought Microsoft was talking about Scorpio for a while. They were kind of building it up.
They were the ones who announced Scorpio for like a year.
High-end model Xbox was unveiled June 2017 and releasing in November. But so they fully unveiled it summer and it came out that year. My point is that like you don't want to announce a system like you see like what do you guys am I missing something? Xbox One X and PS4 Pro were announced officially months before, like 4 to 5 months before the release, but it was within the year before the holiday. They didn't like announce it before the holiday and let people buy not that during the holiday and then release it afterwards. No. Nor did they wait like until like January or February, announce it shortly after the holiday, and they didn't do that either. So either my opinion, Switch Plus Pro is announced like next year, a few months after Christmas. And it comes out a couple months after that, or it's announced this year and it comes out this year.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming out like spring, like some people seem to think of next year. I just don't think it's happening.
I feel like it's got to come out for holiday. It seems weird to think of them launching something like that and having it not be in holiday.
But they haven't announced it yet, right? So like if they don't announce it by let's say this summertime, then I'm probably thinking, all right, maybe this is fake or they're
just announce it at E3 time alongside your Breath of the Wild blowout, and have it come out in like October. Then you're good.
That's what makes sense.
I mean, it's E3's in June.
Yeah,
month 6. By September, you've given it enough time for people to and it hasn't been quite as sudden, and then it's out in time for holiday. Like, to me, that's what I would go with personally.
Yeah, I see Birdman
And again,
added me
you could
here.
also drop that with a major game. Like
Yeah.
I could see them doing Breath of the Wild 2 dropped at E3 plus new hardware plus out in like 3 to 4 months.
Yeah,
It seems odd to think Breath of the Wild 2 not having a larger build up, but they can do it. They can make it work. It could go viral really crazy off E3, and then suddenly it's out like a couple months later, and people would absolutely eat that up. People would love it if it's like, this is the game and it's out in 3 months. People would lose their minds.
Comes alongside Switch Plus Pro, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would sell some serious units.
Yeah, hold
Yeah.
that thought for a second, because I just want to address this question comment real quick. Birdman added me. Nintendo will do the same thing as they with the OG Switch, announce it a month until release, and same thing with the Switch Lite. Well, the Switch was announced October, and it came out March. But
They also did like a full unveil in January.
right, the major presentation was in January. But the problem with that, the difference there is that there wasn't like a home console hardware to support at the time. The Wii U was dead in its tracks. There was nothing to look forward to.
Over.
And they were trying to fully kill it in time. They like full killed that thing before the Switch came out.
Shot in the head.
Yeah, but the
Yes.
point still stands though that there was a short, like announcement to release window. So this is a whole new generation for Nintendo. October, March. That's short. And the blowout was January, March. Like, so, you know, you can look at it like that. And like to your point with the Switch Lite, like that was, I don't even remember, like it was like just a couple months between release,
Yeah, it was like
announcement and release.
2
So-
or 3 months.
I can easily see, assuming that they're ready, of course. We're making the assumptions that the pandemic hasn't slowed them down so much, and also like there's also been issues with like a lot of companies developing manufacturing hardware, because there's been shortages. But like assuming those things don't hold them back that much, I do think it makes the most sense to have the Zelda blowout at E3, and around that time, maybe same presentation or close to it, Switch Pro comes out in October. Yeah, that's a 5-month, 4-month window. It's similar to the base Switch.
Nintendo loves their mic drops, and what would be more hilarious than their mic drop being Breath of the Wild 2, which then mic drops a Switch Plus? I mean, it just
For
I-
a Breath of the Wild 2.
like, it's just Breath of the Wild 2 this date, also Breath of the Wild 2 in 4K this date on this device. Like
Yes.
that, like again, like how do the other two companies compete with the ending of that announcement? They could have a garbage E3 Direct and all, like you drop that at the end of it, and that's all anyone's going to talk
That's
about.
what people
It's
remember.
the greatest thing ever. Like, it's the best Direct we've ever seen.
Like, so let's assume they do that. And again, we don't know, right? It could be the case Breath of the Wild 2
We're-
does take longer.
We're also assuming that like an enhanced Switch is an actual thing, because so
Yeah.
far there is technically only rumors.
Right. Yeah.
There are data mines suggesting they're playing around with ideas, but we don't have concrete evidence yet. I do think it's happening though. There's a lot of reasons, but that we've discussed a lot of those before. But let's just kind of think about the lineup, right? So let's just assume we get the Fire Emblem remake, we get the Donkey Kong game, we get Metroid, we get Pokemon, and we get Zelda. That together, then all of a sudden it's a little bit different, right? Especially if that Donkey Kong game is not just a side-scrolling game, but more of like a 2.5D kind of thing, and the remake, I mean, it depends how they remake it, right? But if it's also kind of like a 2.5D sort of thing, then, you know, you're looking at like a slightly different look, you know? Like that would be fine. You have an August release, a September release, an October release, a November release, a December release. Of course, they could have two come out like just 3 weeks away from each other, so you could still have like maybe like 2 months where 3 games come out. So they could still fit it in there. Maybe they can throw in another release for December. potentially, especially if they do have like a system like that come out. They may want to support something else. Like we mentioned, Mollisoft. Another option is the ARMS Mario Kart team. They're having rumors for Mario Kart 9. Now, I want to caution people with the Mario Kart 9 thing, because my personal impression is that rumor information is perhaps confused with Live Circuit, which came out last year. So I personally am not anticipating Mario Kart 9 this year, but if it happens, that'd be great. And technically, the ARMS Mario Kart team hasn't come out with anything since 2017. So they've been working on something, and they could definitely come out with something this year. Could be the next Mario Kart, but I'm personally hoping for like a new IP or a revived franchise. F-Zero.
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to look at the sales of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and think that 9 is actually coming. It's again, 30 million is a big number, and it's still selling.
Counter argument. What say you to Splatoon 3 then? Because Splatoon 2 came out, and then we got Splatoon 3.
I didn't expect Splatoon 3 at all. I expected that to be next gen. B, games as a service.
What?
It's Nintendo's games as a service. It's their service game. So in that regard, it makes sense that they keep the service coming.
Good. That's a great. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good argument.
Like they came out and like literally Splatoon 2 was heralded as like that's Nintendo's version of games as a service. Every week there was a weapon drop, a map update, some sort of balance patch, something. It went for 2 years, and here we are now. And they kept like giving us some stuff even afterwards. Like they brought back Splatfest for a little while. And so it's again like I was very surprised. I was expecting.
I was thinking a spinoff. Just because
I'll say right now, I was expecting DLC spinoff, one of the two, and I wasn't expecting it in that direct.
Well,
I was not expecting that. Came out of nowhere for me.
But isn't it weird though that they decided to announce a 2022 game instead of talking about things for 2021? Because their whole second half is just nothing.
I think they're just waiting. I wouldn't be surprised if Pandemic has a little bit more to play in it, and the uncertainty. Again, like the pandemic is still an ongoing and ever-changing thing. At any point in time, they could be back in lockdown. Anything can happen, and they might be waiting to announce closer. They might be awaiting till it's close enough that they don't destroy the sales of the Switch when they announce some sort of enhanced Switch, and they want to announce their games with the enhanced Switch in mind. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. But again, to me, it also makes sense that they need something big to drop there. And if they didn't want to drop like a Switch Plus game there, they wanted to drop something with, like, say they want Breath of the Wild 2 to have Switch Plus in the initial trailer for Breath of the Wild 2. You can't announce it now and then have it come out in 6 months. That's going to hurt the sales of the Switch. And Nintendo, like, I feel like they'll give it about 3 months. Between 2 and 4, probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to save it for E3, drop it there, have it blow up. They can do it. They might as well. There's going to be a lot of heavy hitters at E3 this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's their big one. And again, if it's with another console, like, that's a big one too. That's hardware always makes E3 seem bigger than it is. And Breath of the Wild 2 is a massive game that people are waiting on. So it would make sense to me. And
I think I heard that the E3 live event was canceled shortly before the podcast. Is that my mistaken in hearing that?
Did not know.
That doesn't mean Nintendo. That doesn't mean the other companies can't have presentations around that time.
Pretty sure they confirmed.
Especially if they were gearing one up. If they were gearing up for that announcement, I could see it, but again, if that's
I could be mistaken. It might be people retweeting like last year's.
It could be anything. But like E3 is. This was their chance to come back and reimagine itself.
Yeah, Brandon, I missed what you said. What did you say? Oh, according to this, Nintendo enthusiasts, E3 2020 live event officially canceled by LA City. PC Gamer, surprising no one, E3's 2020 live event seems to have been canceled. Andy Robinson, E3 2011 has been canceled. Looks like it was
it's just
canceled.
an in-game event or in-person event.
Yeah, and they're saying
Oh.
it. LA canceled it. LA doesn't get to cancel an online event.
The city tourism board, canceled it.
You can't cancel an online event, so yeah, they might not have anything there.
Oh, the physical event, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
they can't put together a digital presentation, which is what we thought was
No.
happening. Yeah, so
I didn't think they were doing a physical. I thought it was going to be entirely digital
Neither.
because of the pandemic, and they were going to reimagine themselves, in a way that doesn't cost them insane amounts of money to make this happen. You don't know LA.
yeah, I
Oh,
mean, so here, Reset Era NT E3 2020 as live event canceled, going forward as digital, working on broadcast options. So
yeah.
it doesn't mean they're not doing anything for 2021. I think some people are kind of misreading that there. So I haven't had time to look into all the details yet, but I mean, my impression is that there'll still be something digital occurring.
I'd be surprised if there wasn't.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
that was their plan. The only problem with that is like, oh, we're doing it, and we currently have these people signed up, and the list is empty. Yeah, that was the only issue they were having. They're like, we're doing it, and no one's signed up yet. And it's like,
We're doing it, guys. Everybody's they're gonna be here. Just trust me.
So I want to address something. I've just seen several comments on it, and I'm not getting to a specific one because I've seen it throughout the chat. But people are asking about Metroid Prime 4. Well, I mean, we sort of touched on it last week, but basically, because, in my opinion, because we didn't get any sort of Metroid announcement during this Nintendo Direct, and because we sort of have a good outline of what Nintendo is doing leading up until July, I do not think there's really much space to have 2 Metroid games come out this year. Because we're basically looking at, like, is it theoretically possible that we could get like an Origami King kind of announcement for like Metroid 5 and it comes out this summer? Or maybe even May to take up the Miitopia alongside Miitopia or something. Yeah, it's possible, but why would they have skipped the Nintendo Direct? I just don't think they would have done that. Like, Origami King happened because there wasn't like an E3 presentation happening, So we'll see, but more likely I would say because there was no Metroid announced in the February Direct, I don't think there's any Metroid coming out in the first half of 2021, which then means that if we are getting anything Metroid, I feel like they're probably only going to put in one thing in the second half, and at that point, we worry about the other stuff later. So I think it's the Metroid 5 thing that's coming first. I think Prime 4, unfortunately, is still not that close to ready.
No.
Now,
And-
what would be exciting, though, and this is, my hope, let's say we get a massive E3 presentation, right? We get the Metroid, like, they talk about Metroid. Maybe they announce 3 Metroids in one event. Like, it may sound crazy, but hear me out. They announced Metroid 5 for, like, September, but then they also show off Prime Trilogy and say, oh, coming early 2022. And then they're like, oh, Metroid Prime 4, here's a little teaser. We get like a quick little 30-second glimpse of the game. They don't even give us a date though. And maybe something like that. That's maybe a possibility.
Yeah, and if it happens and it's coming, I don't know. Prime Trilogy coming out early next year to me. Like, again, I'm still on the trilogy early, Prime 4 at the end of the year for holiday. But looking at what's coming early next year, Prime Trilogy is like it's gonna get pushed out. It just seems like a really harsh time to put it in.
Do you think that maybe Prime 4 is not a holiday 2022 game anymore, or maybe it never was gonna be?
Where's that studio located again?
Texas, Austin,
Yeah.
Texas.
Didn't they just have a little bit of problems?
Oh,
I imagine that
Yeah,
might
that's a
have
lot
been,
of-
like a week
like-
or 2 delay. That's about it.
But again, you're already having multiple delays, and you're getting delayed again. Now you're moving into uncertainty.
they had the renovations. There's COVID.
Yeah, like oof.
A lot of new talent.
Yeah, I'm
And that
thinking-
would have been somewhat early in development as things started happening. That would have like ground them to a halt. Now the only thing is that unlike in Japan, I would imagine they were probably set up a little bit better to work from home.
Yeah, they
But
might
it
not
depends
even
on
have
how
worked
well
from
they.
home for that long, because here the COVID restrictions are ridiculously light. Like restaurants are barely even closed. I think they were closed for like a few weeks at like one point. That was it. Everything else has pretty much always been open, so they might not even have had to work from home, or at least for not that long, maybe for a few weeks. But depending on how strict, like they wouldn't have had to. They might have worked from home for a long time if they wanted to, like personally, but they would not required to. So it's hard to say how effective they were, because generally, I mean, here the rules just aren't very strict at all.
I can see, again, if you're forced out and there's no power to their building, like, okay, it took a week to come back, barring any other issues. If something were to happen to the building itself that needs to be looked at, and again, it could be other issues, but you're coming back after a week of just a hard stop. You come back a week later, it's going to take you a little while to get going. You're losing again. You might only be losing 2 weeks, but when you've already looked at delays from other things, other issues going on, other uncertainty, it could just be. And again, if it is coming out soon, it is possible, unlikely but possible. But again, like, that would be another reason why Nintendo would not want to start advertising it as early as they would, if they're still, again, looking at all this uncertainty, which makes you wonder why they're announcing something like Splatoon 3 so far out.
All right, I know. Things may not happen when we want them to happen. I know. But I just had a wonderful, magical, fanboy dream idea. So, I think you guys agree with me. I believe that the next time we get Zelda information, there will be a Zelda-focused E3 style direct around this summer, say June. Timing wise, it makes sense because that's when the first wave of the Age of Calamity DLC is coming out, so they could talk about Zelda, have a shadow drop then. It's a month before Skyward Sword HD releases, give it another look then. And then if Breath of the Wild 2 is ready for the holiday, they have that, and now they have a blowout for that as summertime event, similar to how they had a blowout for Breath of the Wild 1. And fingers crossed, it comes out for the holidays alongside a Switch Plus, right? That's the best case scenario, maybe. And of course, there's other options for other Zelda releases throughout, but those are smaller releases. But this is where the fanboy dream comes in. Imagine first week of June, we all wake up and we see a Twitter notification from Nintendo. And it says, tune in Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern or whatever, 7 a.m. Pacific or something, and for a Zelda 35th anniversary and Metroid 35th anniversary focused Nintendo Direct presentation. So what happens is, they talk about the Donkey Kong, they talk about the Fire Emblem, they say, oh, there's a Pokemon game coming. But then they transition to a Metroid blowout. They show off us the 2D, Austin's beautiful 2D Metroid game. It's still going to be HD, beautiful graphics, but, side-scrolling. It comes out August to celebrate Metroid's 35th anniversary, but then they're like, oh, but wait, we have more to celebrate. Prime Trilogy, coming out 2022. Oh, but wait, there's more. We know you've been waiting for this for a very long time. We finally have something to show you. Please enjoy. And it shows a 30-second trailer of Samus in 4K. It's the first time the Nintendo Direct at 4K 60 FPS, by the way. Because Switch Pro, Plus, Super, whatever it's called. And you see 30 seconds of just like 4K 60 FPS Metroid Prime 4 gameplay, and everyone's just like, what? And then everyone's like, oh, well, that was the best Direct ever. Hope. And now transitioning over to the Zelda section. Here is Age of Calamity DLC, out now. You can play it after the presentation. Here's another look at Skyward Sword HD. You can play Hero Mode from the beginning. And then they're like, okay, we have a few more announcements. We will be releasing Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on the eShop later this year. And in early 2022, you can look forward to releases for Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD as well. But we have something else to talk about. big 3-minute trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, and then afterwards they say, stay tuned, we have a treehouse portion talking fully about gameplay in Breath of the Wild 2. And then a week later they announced Switch Plus or something, or a week before. Wouldn't that just be the most magical?
You know what happens after that, Andres? You wake up. You wake up. That's what happens after that, Andres. You wake up, and then you realize, man, that was too good to be true.
Right.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a dream.
The fire starts coming in as the world begins to burn, and then he realizes, oh, I'm just dreaming.
No. I wake up and like, whoa, that was a nightmare. They didn't talk about Switch Plus. And then the next day, they said all of that, but they announced Switch Plus as well.
Nice.
There you go.
Also, I'd like to burst your bubble. Even if there's a Switch Pro that does 4K, I would wonder if they would still do streams at 1080p, just because a lot of times PlayStation Sony and Microsoft both do streams at 1080p, which annoys the hell of me.
Really?
And release 4K trailers after.
Oh.
So, yeah, not to crush your spirits, but some reason streaming at 4K is just not done a lot. I mean, it does require a lot of bandwidth. So.
I mean, I've seen
requires
like
bandwidth, and some
streams
people seem to have issues with it.
Okay.
Like some people have issues watching it too. So
maybe they could at least say,
especially on like Twitch and stuff.
Maybe they could have like a
to
note
the
say, if you
bandwidth.
want to watch a 4K trailer, tune in later to see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah,
that's what happens, like,
yeah.
The quality, honestly, for Microsoft and Sony events, especially last year during the pandemic, like when it was really, really bad in the summer when they were doing those E3 quote unquote events, those E3 replacement events, man, they look terrible.
Like even so much as a couple years ago, like 720p was the most commonly viewed quality of stream, just because
it looks like such garbage on YouTube too.
Just because that's what everyone could target, and that's what everyone could view. So a lot of people were streaming at 720 just because that way there would be a smooth experience for everyone. Whereas like going up to 1080 causes a little bit more problems, but it should be fairly smooth by now. But then 4K I can still see people having issues with.
Yeah,
so
if you're a normie and you don't have amazing internet like me.
So I have another
or if you're on mobile, and
I got another little thing here. I feel like, I mean, if you look at how Nintendo has announced their hardware, they don't really have live presentations for that. They have like a trailer drop that's like, oh, this is this and this is what it does. So if it's launching alongside Switch Pro, how do they deliver this information, right? Like, do they do a direct that has all of that in there together? Like
they have done hardware in directs before with the 3DS.
We're also talking about a completely different marketing scheme from Nintendo. Like they're marketing, like I at this point in time, you can kind of look back at what they've done, but all bets are off the table, in my opinion. They have done so much so different from previous generations that it wouldn't surprise me to see them try something very different.
Well, here's the thing. The reason why I brought it up is to your point, you guys were talking about how like they wouldn't stream in 4K. If you're gonna have a presentation and you're gonna talk about a 4K system, and you can't really live stream in 4K, but it's a 4K system, maybe it's better to just drop a 4K 7-minute video. Same way they did for the Switch Lite. Obviously it wasn't 4K, but you get my point. They do that. That seems to kind of make more sense to me, assuming they can't do a 4K live stream presentation, and for it to go over well. You know what I mean? Like, I just have a hard time seeing and assuming that that's the focus of the system.
Necessarily think that that's
they
true.
They can't surprise you because it's a premiere, and when people tune into the premiere and see, oh, it's 4K, well, obviously this is
I
what
think
they're
just saying that it's 4K and saying that's better, or doing like zoom-in shots is enough, and then releasing a trailer later that's in 4K.
Yeah.
I mean, even with like the Xbox Series X and the PS5 showing off their brand new next-gen hardware, those streams were not that high quality. They were pretty garbage. And that was a new next-gen, fully really next-gen system, so I think it's fine as long as you just tell people what's different and then let them see later. it works out fine.
I mean, most people, maybe not most people, a lot of people, if you just slap 4K on it and you just you just slap it with 4K, they won't even really.
Most people don't even know what 4K really means.
They just know it's
that's
good.
better. Yeah.
4K good.
Well,
like
the thing is though is that we don't usually see Nintendo put their hardware announcements in their directs though. They're separate. Like even the Switch presentation it wasn't a direct. The first look was a set with a little trailer. Switch Lite was not. When was the last time we saw new hardware showing off in a direct? I think even most of the 3DS announcements were like separate trailer announcements.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying,
but
like,
when they
done
really showed off the Switch, and they showed off Breath of the Wild a lot more during that presentation, that might as well. That was like an E3 class presentation, and it's not like they haven't done hardware drops in E3s like regular E3s before. I'm pretty sure they did with the new 3DS. Because when they first showed it off was during an E3 presentation. So,
Googling it.
I don't know. Again, like
remember.
We're talking about Nintendo that's been advertising much better. Their platform is like skyrocketing. They're doing amazing. If they're going to try things and take a risk with their advertising, now's the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try something different to see how it goes over and just take notes on it. Get back whatever information they can, because it doesn't matter how they show this thing off. It's gonna be a success.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense to show it off in a direct versus like a light though, because with the light you're not really focused on the games or anything. You're just like, oh, here's the hardware, it's portable and all that stuff. But with like an enhanced Switch, you gotta show off the games. You gotta show off what makes this system different, not only just in the hardware itself, but in how the software compares.
So
it's a lot of different style of announcement.
Brandon, I just looked up the first time the new Nintendo 3DS was announced. It was in a Japanese Nintendo Direct presentation on August 29th, 2014. So it wasn't an E3, but it was in a Direct.
Okay.
Yeah. There's precedent then. It's interesting. I wonder.
It's like a month after E3.
Yeah, weird. That was 2014 though. Like,
wasn't that like right after they said it wasn't happening?
Probably.
I don't know.
Probably, yeah.
Like it's.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking about like a different Nintendo that can do anything, and it's their marketing has been different. It will continue. Like again, it's going to be successful. So if they want to try something and see if it goes over better than expected, now would be the time to do it. Meanwhile, if you show off Breath of the Wild 2 and then at the end say play it in 4K on this, like you don't have to show off all the little bells and whistles of it and have like a big discussion. It's essentially the Metroid Prime 4 E3 trailer all over again, where it's just a freaking logo and people lose their minds. All you have to do is play it like Breath of the Wild 2, play it on this date, releasing alongside of this, which will play it in 4K, and no one cares about, who else is really going to be like me looking. It's like, well, have you fixed the latency issue with the gyro? Have you, what's your support with this? What's your screen type? How's the battery life on it? Like how does it still work on the original dock? Does it people don't care about that. They want, it's like they just want to get hyped over that, and then they can go do something else with it later and tell us what like all the bells and whistles are later. But at the time, just hype people up and then say 4K on this, and then it's done. Like everyone's excited, people are pre-ordering it and like probably like throwing each other to the ground trying to get to it. And
yeah,
it's just how it's so easy for them to do it, and it takes so little, and then it buys them more time, and then it gives them a separate they can do another direct later for it, or they can throw out a video on YouTube. They can do whatever, but then it's like, okay, we have this, it blew up, everyone freaked out. A week later we drop this video, we're back in the news. You know, it's like that's big enough for E3, and then to have another big announcement, or at least show off what you announced big in another way that's going to really like blow up a week later, even if the other companies have something huge at E3, just that massive news followed by news on the massive news. I feel like it's just a great way to keep them in the news and in people's in front of people's eyes, which is something they've done very well so far with the Switch and its marketing. So I don't know. It's just that's where I'm looking at it right now.
I just I do think they gotta be careful and clear about their messaging. So
I don't think it would be too much of an issue, just because people are used to the concept of like an enhanced version of the same Switch. So as long as the name, I don't know.
As long as
they name
it
it
says
anything other than like something that implies inherently that it's a next-gen system, then I think people will get the.
as long as it says play it on Switch and Switch Plus or whatever, and they're both there, then it's not going to be a big issue.
That's what they got to do. They have to be clear that you can play all these games on both systems.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, they should. At the end of the day, they don't really have to, because people are going to be looking for it anyways, and it's going to come out anyway. It's just going to cause a lot of confusion that they really don't need. Whereas it takes it's an extra 2 seconds on a trailer that pops up that stops all these problems. It's probably done realistically. It's probably done in 20-30 minutes by someone, just to make sure it's all perfect and it gets signed off by whoever's above them and all this stuff. So it's it's so little to save so many problems. I don't see them just not doing it.
I feel like if they somehow got away with the horrendous naming scheme and marketing that is the new 3DS, and people weren't confused about that, then I think we're pretty good to go. As long as they don't call it the Switch U, I think we'll be fine.
Switch U.
Oh, do you think they would try it just to try to bury that as being a bad thing?
Just the last, one last middle finger.
We have seen Nintendo kind of go back to certain ideas, almost in a very prideful, arrogant, stubborn kind of way, like Star Fox Zero. Star Fox Zero was Nintendo Miyamoto. Love the guy. He's done many amazing things, and Star Fox Zero has some good qualities to it. Don't get me wrong, but I think many will agree that focusing on weird asymmetrical motion control gameplay, looking at two different screens that weren't connected to each other, wasn't really a good idea. In practice, it didn't work out that well, but it was almost like they really wanted to prove that the Wii U concept was the way to go. Except it really wasn't, because they tried to fully utilize the motion controls and the different things you could do with the unique aspects of the Wii U with Star Fox Zero, and it wasn't the best Star Fox game. We've seen Nintendo do that before. I do think the Nintendo of today is a bit more modern, a bit more self-aware. So I don't think they would do that necessarily, but we've seen it.
I can see where they were going with the Wii U, though. I mean, the Wii itself was a huge success, and then you're also looking at the DS, which was that was them being yes, 2-screen gaming is worth it and it's good. And they were going on with the 3DS and then the Wii U, and it's okay, well, we're gonna buckle down on this. Having 2 screens is just better. And I didn't have a Wii U. It was so late in the life of it that when I actually found out, it's oh, it's not just another attachment for the Wii like the other millions of them there are. It was bad marketing then for something that, again, some people have said that it produced good games. It was a good concept, a good idea. It was more of a marketing issue, and then now they have to get away from it. They couldn't do another 2-screen system and be like, yeah, it's not the Wii U though. It's gonna be better, guys. We swear. Like it. And then it was big. It was clunky. And then you look at the Switch. It's like so much more modern and sleek, and it's not even that sleek and modern looking. It was just a huge step. So, yeah.
But let's start transitioning towards the end of this discussion. So, guys, if you have any final questions or points you want to bring up, feel free to add us. We'll get to it before we close things out here. But is there anything that you guys want to sort of touch on before we, take the questions and call it a night?
I'm just really excited for a lot. Like I have so many games that I want.
There's a lot.
We didn't even touch Triangle Strategy tonight. Demo's looking solid.
Okay.
I haven't gotten through the entirety of it, but it's looking solid. The people that I know that like those games are like, this is fantastic. Super excited. I'm not surprised. I loved Octopath Traveler and I loved it when it came out. Again, didn't that break 1 million as well?
I feel like it did. Yeah. I don't remember, but
yeah, I'm pretty sure it did. And like they sold out of physical copies, and people were demanding more physical copies. Like the game was so good, and like so many people loved it. And again, they're following
2 million as of April 2020.
That's so good.
So
that's so good.
Nice.
Yeah.
For a filler game, by the way, from Square Enix. Just a filler to make money between Final Fantasies. Just like Bravely Default.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, they're doing really well. The whole sequence of here's a demo.
Oh. We lost. Is he back? Just cut out for a quick second there. Doom, I don't know if you can hear us, but we lost you.
I can hear you.
It looks like your camera maybe died out for a moment.
Am I back on or?
I hear you. Yeah, you're here.
Yeah,
you're audible. Just your camera's off.
That's weird.
Oh, we coming back?
Come on, camera. There we go. That was weird.
It happens.
Never had that happen before. Anyways, yeah, I love the idea of they're coming out with a demo, they're taking feedback, and they're going to act upon the feedback. That's a big thing, and again, like they are people like that in general. That is a selling point, and companies need to pay attention and know this. Like, it's such a good thing. And again, like they changed a lot. They changed a lot for Octopath Traveler, and I believe they actually pushed back Octopath a little bit just because they were still taking time to deal with all of the feedback that they came in and actually make changes to it, and then to actually state how many changes they made and how much feedback that it was so well done, and I love that they're doing it again.
Yeah, actually,
that's something I would love to see out of more companies.
It's great for these small experimental titles.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I got a super chat here from Beleaf789. Thank you very much, Beleaf. Triangle Strategy is so good. Can't wait for 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't gotten a chance to play. I probably should. So that's
Triangles.
Maybe I'll put that demo on I'll play that after I'm done with Future Connected.
2022 Triangle Strategy. Pokemon Legends, Splatoon 3, Rise Ultimate.
Because you're assuming that because they do it every time that they have an extension.
It's gonna be a big year.
Oh yeah, they confirmed that a PC release for Monster Hunter Rise is coming.
Yep.
Yeah, early 2022, I think.
But maybe
plus confirmed a bunch of other things too.
But Monster Hunter Rise base comes to PC next year. Does Switch gets Monster Hunter Rise Ultimate instead though? Is that like Nintendo's way of kind of like still maintaining like exclusivity, kind of?
Well, it's probably gonna be the same thing with World, where the PC version was constantly behind until after updates, or like really, really late in this life cycle.
Okay.
Where they actually caught up PC, which My big thing is I don't like that they hid the PC version this long. I'm not a fan of that whatsoever.
I think we've heard about a PC version being a
not-
possibility like a while
Not
back,
officially. We
but no,
we
yeah, not
knew about it
officially.
through the ransomware leak.
Oh yeah.
So it was a rather not pleasant out.
It'd be
And then
nice not having
it still
tied
wasn't.
to Switch hardware though. Get
I'm
higher
all for it.
resolutions, higher frame rates on PC.
Well,
would
it
be
would
nice.
be
I'm all for it. I
interesting.
just want people to know about it ahead of time. Like one of my issues
Yeah.
wasn't the big change for Nintendo is that you can now cancel a digital pre-order as long as it's not within the last month.
I'm not sure exactly about the rules, but yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure it was as long as it's not within the last month. And we found out about the PC version from them answering a question in an interview 1 month before release. So anyone that's like, no, I'll cancel and I'll wait for the PC version. Nope, too bad. And that I don't like that at all.
I would wait for the PC version, but
I
I
understand
wanna
it.
play it with
I don't.
people who own the Switch version.
Yeah, I understand it. I don't like it. And that's the other thing too, is like like for Monster Hunter 6, like whatever's after World on the consoles, I would love to see day and date with PC and crossplay all platforms. Like that would be like a dream to me.
Yeah, it'd be
But
nice.
it's not looking great.
I'm wondering what they'll add to it, or change about it, that makes it need to come out a whole year, or they might just be like just waiting
Timed?
because Nintendo, yeah.
Timed exclusive. We already know it's timed exclusive.
Paid for it.
Nintendo paid for it. You can even, if you really want to dig through the leaks, there's a lot of spoilers. It's not just Monster Hunter. It's all of Capcom's pipeline. You can find out how, like, by the time it actually comes out and we see when the actual release date of the PC version is, which is, again, supposed to be early 2022, you will be able to go back, look at that leak, and you will know how much Nintendo paid for the delay on the PC version.
Wow.
Just like it's the same thing for Sony, why they pushed a delay of World, and it's probably gonna again. I would be really surprised if they don't do it again, because as
Yeah.
much as I hate it, it's a smart business decision by Nintendo, by Sony, and as far as Capcom goes, PC, the big strength is going to be the longevity of sales. They're gonna sell pretty much the same anyways. It's just, why not take a bigger payday?
Yeah.
I can't really fault Capcom for it. There's no fault to the Monster Hunter team. They're just doing what they're told. But I don't like that we didn't officially know, and then we found out through an interview question, like kind of really last minute. I just don't like it.
I get it.
But everything else looks everything else is looking great. All the stuff that they've confirmed and talked about recently, phenomenal. The monsters coming back, the weapon designs, they showed off the armor abilities. They dumped a lot of information on us over the last week or so, and it's all looking phenomenal.
Game
I
is-
hope they
game is-
add.
we're less than a month away. We're weeks away.
Yeah.
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 That's like it's hard to be excited over anything else right now.
I'm also gonna say
Splatoon did it though.
I'm looking forward to. We haven't talked about Splatoon. I want to talk a little bit about that before we close things out. But
Sure.
There's a couple things I want to address before we get to that. One, I am curious to see how this PC version will compare to a Switch Pro version of Monster Hunter Rise. Also
Yeah.
base Switch as well. It's gonna be interesting to see how those all compare. Because obviously this is made for Switch, right? So they'll probably just scale up all of the like settings for
Yeah.
Monster Hunter Rise. Or not. It's not gonna,
Unless
like,
they
be-
add like new graphical bells and whistles, I mean this will run easily
Yeah.
at 4K 60 or 4K 120 on like any newish PC.
Yeah, I would expect it to run well. You say it, but this is Capcom porting to PC. So I expect plenty of issues with the game itself and the port.
Yeah, no.
But realistically, if it's a semi-decent port,
Theoretically,
it's going to
if
look
they do
good.
a good job.
Now that said, I'm playing Iceborne right now on PC, and I can tell you there's parts of the game, like there's bugs in there that still aren't fixed, and probably never will be. But at least there's
Oof.
game-breaking bugs like there was when it launched. At least they got those taken care of. But they definitely have, like, there's quests that can get soft locked and stuff that still exists, and there's all sorts of issues that do not exist on the console versions. It's just Capcom historically has not been great.
Converters people from Bethesda, what the hell happened?
Capcom traditionally seems to not be overly strong at porting to PC.
How PC works,
But at the same time, you know, they haven't really been porting there an awful lot. When they did, it was sort of like, just throw it on and see what we get for money. Whereas like this seems to be like something they're doing for longevity of the series, and that it looks like everything is going to be on PC late, but on PC moving forward. So I would hope that they're trying to improve their port quality each iteration, and so if they do, it's great.
I wonder if Nintendo will ever succumb. Even Sony is putting stuff on PC now.
The only PS5 game I cared about right now is Kenna, and I was like, oh, I want it, but I can't buy a PS5 for that. And someone's like, oh, but it's coming to PC, and I'm like, oh, well, there we go. Now I can find a new graphics card.
First party games start coming to PC, I'm still gonna get a PS5 because I need my Ratchet and Clank. My God of War.
They don't have anything right now that I really care about.
Mm.
It was Kenna and it's Final Fantasy 16, but Final Fantasy 16 in the original trailer said PC and they removed it. So I'm assuming it's coming to PC.
Yeah.
So those are the two big ones that for me off of Sony, and it looks like they're both coming to PC. So whatever.
Yeah.
Games Pass. I'm all set. Games Pass. Those games coming to PC and my Switch. I don't need anything else. I got way more than I could ever possibly play.
So there's this quick thing I want to mention. So are you guys familiar with Nate Drake? He's a leaker on Reset Era. He on YouTube. He's Nate the Hate. He's on Spawncast as well.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good insider who has provided us with pretty good information consistently. There's been these articles going around talking about a Super Nintendo Switch with the power of a PS4, but with DLSS, so it's even greater than that. Not saying that it's not going to be more powerful, that it won't be comparable, but it's a lot of clickbait. A lot of people are thinking that it's going to be called Super Nintendo Switch, and it's exactly that, basically a PS4 with DLSS to make it like 9 times more powerful or what have you. Just to show you here, Nate Drake saw this and was like, what? That's not what I said. And he's being used as a source. So be careful of what you're putting it up here so you guys can see, right? This is him right here. Holy hell, that site doesn't even frame what I said in proper fashion. As bits I never said in there, and then completely takes things out of context to imply something else. Great. So just be careful what you're reading. Look into the actual source, because it can be misleading. But we've sort of touched on it throughout this discussion. Our impression is that Switch Pro Plus, I like Plus, so I'm sticking with Plus. Switch Plus
works.
It has a similar sort of feel to New 3DS, but it's more easily understandable, I think. But that's the point. I feel like assume this will be kind of like a new Nintendo 3DS, but for the Switch. So instead of it having better like 3D ability, it'll probably have higher resolutions, maybe 4K capabilities. Games will run a little bit better on there, and there'll be some ergonomic changes, quality of life changes, and that's what it's going to be. It's not going to be a next generation Nintendo system that is super powerful. Like it may be a nice jump, but just careful what you read out there. There's a lot of not great journalism. So yeah, it's just pointing it out. Not great. But I want to check in with the chat here. Let's see, because there's a couple interesting questions I saw that I want to get at. Saturn Trees brought up something interesting here. Dragon Quest XI's was scaled up, so everything looks kind of awful on PC and the other consoles. I think this is in relation to Monster Hunter Rise being pushed on to PC. I don't know if it'll have that issue. I haven't seen Dragon Quest XI's on PC, but that is something to consider. But here's a question from Andrew F., which I found to be quite a fascinating little topic. What do you think will sell more? Breath of the Wild 2 or Pokemon Legends? Yeah.
That's going to depend very heavily on what Pokemon Legends is.
Yeah.
And I don't think Pokemon Legends is going to be as good and excited as I am over it. I don't think it's going to hit hard enough to outsell Breath of the Wild 2.
Well, do you think Breath of the Wild 2 will outsell Breath of the Wild 1?
Good chance of it.
You think
personally.
so? Okay.
I think so.
Coming in a much higher.
Again, like there's a lot of people out there. Okay. When it came out, there was a very small install base. The longer it gets away from its initial release, the more people are going to look at it and be like, well, I'm not going to buy that. It's an old game. No matter what people say, no matter how good it is, no matter how well it still holds up, how perfect it is. That's something you hear constantly. It's like, why should I buy this if it's an older game? I want something newer. Like, this is what's new and shiny. Give me that. And then they'll hold off. So they'll be interested in it. I think it has potential to sell more, especially seeing is not only that, but it's also, I would expect to look better, run better. There's like, this is going to be.
It's also not going to be called Breath of the Wild 2. It's going to have its own subtitle, and it'll be presented in a way where it can stand on its own.
Yeah, like I expect this to be like when you're looking, it's like there's going to be a lot of people out there. Like, again, like the people that love the Zelda series have already bought and played it, and they're going to play the next one. Like that's, I don't see people skipping out on the next one after Breath of the Wild. It's going to be the other people that have looked at Breath of the Wild and been like, yeah, but there's newer games, so I'm just going to get them instead. And then when they see the big shiny new one that's being like built off of like what is the best game of the generation kind of thing, people are like, oh, this is the greatest game that's ever existed. It's them saying, well, we fixed the issues that you had with the original game, and oh, by the way, it's now actually built to target the Switch, and this. I think that's got a strong marketing to it, and by the time it comes out, we're looking at probably 90 to 100 million units. Like,
sure. Yeah.
Versus the original launch of 2 million.
And to be clear, this is a audience that would buy and play Breath of the Wild. This is not the Wii audience that doesn't actually play Nintendo games, but we fit in Wii music and sports. Like, this is real. This people will actually buy Nintendo games on this system, or games in general. So yeah, I see your point with that. I do want to kind of push back a little bit on the idea. I think there's some truth to it, but I'm not sure how impactful that'll be. Of like people kind of saying Breath of the Wild is old and not buying it, because it is an evergreen title. It does continue to sell, right? Yep. Like, you buy a Switch, one of the games you need to play is Breath of the Wild. I still think it feels pretty modern. If you haven't played it before, it's like, you go play that. You go play that, right? But I'm not trying to dispute your point entirely, though, because I do agree with you that, like, Breath of the Wild 2, especially how it's marketed, how great it's executed, like, it's new, it's shiny, it's with the Switch Plus, there is that huge install base there. It can excite people potentially even more. I get that, especially like if they do away with some of the things that scared people away from Breath of the Wild, like the weapon breaking system, for example, or the rain. Like, because there are some people that hear about those little things like, yeah, I'm not gonna try it out, you know, or what, there could be elements of Breath of the Wild 2 that just appeal to a different audience as well. They can kind of bring those people in, because some people may not like how Breath of the Wild looks. Maybe the darker tone for Breath of the Wild 2 may bring more people in. They may hear more about stronger side questing in Breath of the Wild 2, which may bring more people in, right? Because Breath of the Wild, side quest wise, is certainly better than most Zelda games, but if you compare it to something like Elder Scrolls or Witcher, it still kind of pales in comparison, right? So I think there is still room for improvement there. I mean, we've talked about it before. I am of the belief that Breath of the Wild 2 has the potential to become the greatest game of all time. Obviously, that's subjective, but Breath of the Wild is very close to me. Is it my favorite game ever? It's
close.
It's up there for me.
It is
very
up
there.
and it's up
Especially
there for a
seeing
lot
as
of
it's what
people.
pulled me back into gaming, because for a long time, I was just the family pushed everything out, and it came at the right time for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do think there's potential. I agree with you that ultimately, I think Breath of the Wild 2 has potential. I'm just not necessarily as confident about that. But if you look at it from perspective of which is going to be the better game, the sequel to Legend of the Breath of the Wild or Pokemon Legends Arceus, it's clear which one's going to be a better game. It's going to be Breath of the Wild 2. Like, that is obviously, some Pokemon fans may disagree. That's fine, subjective. But if we're talking about critical acclaim, it's going to be Breath of the Wild 2, and it's not going to be close.
If we're talking quality, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, again, as I've said, Pokemon Legends is going to have issues. You have to understand that. There's going to be frame drops. There's going to be issues that the open world. If they don't have Monolith soft, like Monolith specializes in open worlds, that's why they're on the Zelda. Like, that's why they're doing Zelda. If they don't have Monolith Soft helping them with their open world's probably going to have some problems. They don't have the experience. They just don't. So as good of a game as it's going to be, and as much as I'm sure I'll love it, there is going to be problems.
Yeah.
There is going to be problems. Whereas Breath of the Wild had the experience pulled in from Monolith, and now not only that, but their entire team has now experienced this at least once before. They're going to be making a very high quality game.
Yeah. Their second go around is just gonna be really good. I do want to say that the time that we've had to wait between Breath of the Wild 1 and 2, I think also bodes well, because we're getting to the point where it's like basically almost it's a 4 to 5 year interval we're kind of looking at here between the games. At that point, it's been so long, you don't suffer from like the typical sort of like, how like if a game comes out every single year, not everyone wants to buy for a franchise every single year, but if you give that enough time, people are like, oh, it's been a while since I played a legit Zelda game. More people will sort of buy into Breath of the Wild 2 because of that gap, I would say. On the flip side, Pokemon games come out every single year, and it doesn't matter.
Come out like once or twice a generation. It's definitely a lot more likely that people are going to pick that one up. Because, I mean, if you're a Zelda fan, you just are going to. You're just going to pick it up. If you're a Nintendo fan, you're pretty much guaranteed. They make them purposely. It's kind of like landmark titles.
Yeah.
Like, they're defining titles for the generation. They don't just come out every year or every other year. They're not really on a schedule. Kind of makes it more exciting, because like Pokemon, you kind of expect like every 3 years you get a new generation. In between then you'll get like a remake or a third version. But with games like Zelda, you just have no idea. You have literally no clue when the next game is coming out. I think it's kind of both frustrating and kind of builds the hype even more.
Again, we're talking about how long they've been to reuse a world. Like, the only thing I can think of is if it is legitimately taking this long and the world is being reused, how much is going to be in that game?
Yeah, they gotta make it very different. They're not gonna, make a new Zelda game and have it feel even a bit like the other one. I mean, especially using the same map. Nobody's like, one of the biggest draws of Breath of the Wild is exploring the map for the first time and like finding out where everything is and stuff like that, which you can't do if you reuse the maps. So they gotta change a lot of it. I imagine that with them making the engine better for the Switch. I mean, we already saw the graphics are a lot better, even for just in that small trailer that we've seen compared to the original game.
Doesn't necessarily mean that it's running on the Switch, but then at the same time you can turn around and like you can see, like, look at Monster Hunter Rise and how good that looks, and that's not even first party.
I don't think they would show a fake trailer. They just typically don't do that.
They don't. I'm just saying, like, it is always something like it could be something that's running on a PC that's emulating what it would be on a Switch. Like it's
Oh yeah.
I know Nintendo likes to do it, but at the same time, it's like, did they really show gameplay? And if they didn't really show gameplay, then I personally won't 100% trust it. I'll say, yeah, it's probably likely, but I'm not going to I'm not going to stamp that as yes, that is 100%.
Given Nintendo's track park, it will at least look extremely similar, even if that isn't like running on an actual Switch. Like it's not different.
Oh, I expect it to look very similar. I'm
Well,
just saying, like, it's.
I mean, I think
There is always possibility.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but let's look at it from this perspective. If you look at every sort of like piece of footage teasing the next big Zelda game and what it's actually amounted to be, there's some things that look worse, there's some things that look better, but I feel like the overall presentation is more appealing, right? Would you guys kind of agree with that? Like if we look at go through time, the Space World demo for the GameCube, obviously Wind Waker's going to do a different art style, but if you compare it to Twilight Princess, which one would you say looks better? I think we would all say hands down Twilight Princess looks better, right?
Yeah.
We go to the if you go to the initial footage for Ocarina of Time, or it would look like old Link fighting like a silver little metallic thing, and you'll see what Ocarina of Time becomes. It's like this open world Zelda environment. Like it just looks significantly better. Then you look at the initial Breath of the Wild trailer when it was just like Zelda U, right? That looks amazing, but it's really good. But like when we actually get to see Breath of the Wild, I feel like overall, while there are some things that don't look better than that initial trailer, like the overall presentation, seeing all the animals and the physics and such come together, I feel like the overall image you're seeing and experiencing is better in actual Breath of the Wild compared to that initial trailer.
I'd agree with that.
Yep.
So my point with that is simply that historically speaking, that initial sort of footage teasing the Zelda game, when the game finally comes out, even if it's not like objectively technically better from every perspective, all the artistic decisions they make and optimizations they make come together to create a presentation that for most people is better looking. So that's what I'm sort of expecting for the game when we finally get to see it.
Yeah, I agree.
And then when you factor in Switch Plus, hey, yeah. But of course, the game's got to run well for base Switch owners as well. That is the main.
Yeah.
That's where most people are going to be playing it. So it needs to be good. Yeah.
I don't have any worries about it though.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
I think it's gonna be a great game. It's gonna be
there's-
great. It's gonna be like, again, I feel like it's probably gonna end up selling more than the original.
I want it to. I think you raised some good points, so I think there's a possibility, especially if they market it as its own thing. But of course, it still has that source it brings to the Breath of the Wild fans. I think there's a potential. I think it's a 10+ million seller. I just don't know if it's a 20. If it approaches Animal Crossing levels. Like, what if? That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Mind you, you mean Animal Crossing sales now, or Animal Crossing sales when it's all said and done? Animal Crossing is still going well.
I was thinking 30 million. I was not thinking 50. So, yeah. 30's kind of a lofty goal, but records exist to be broken. A couple ads here. Birdman, Mario's going bye-bye this month. LOL. Indeed it is, and a good follow-up question that's presented by that Breakson kid. Do you think Nintendo will end 3D All-Star sales at the end of the month? Well, that's what they said they would do. But does that mean they won't have it available to some other capacity later down the road? Tough call. It's interesting how Nintendo handles things sometimes. Like, they like having certain products that are rare. It kind of adds to the value of Nintendo products, supply and demand. But there's also some mystique to that as well. Like, 3D All-Star is no longer being available. It'll become like this thing where people are like, oh, it's gonna become sought after, right? And that kind of helps the brand of Nintendo, if that makes sense. I know it's anti-consumer. I know people are upset about it. which is why I recommend getting the game before it expires on the eShop. But there's a chance that Nintendo will do that. I don't know if that's their intention. Maybe they will release the games individually on the eShop later down the road. Considering they built emulators for that, I do feel like there's that like possibility that they may just be kind of built these emulators so they could bring more like retro games to the Switch in this way in HD, and they may just have certain plans to have games like that. Like maybe they will extend Nintendo Online to N64 games, and that's where we see this Mario 64 version come back out. And then they also do that for like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask as well. You know, like maybe they do that, and maybe even further down the road we get Galaxy 1 and also Galaxy 2 thrown on there on the eShop. Like there's that potential, but we may not see them re-released immediately. I think we may see them later down the road, but not like April. I think it is going to disappear for a little bit.
Yeah. But I still have my copy. That if I
got
might
mine.
sell depending on how
I
the
got mine.
demand looks.
I feel like the vast majority of people that actually want it have it.
Yeah. Unfortunately. I was kind of hoping it'd be more rare. I pre-ordered one just in case. But no, they actually made a lot, so.
And I mean, with digital, anyone who actually wants to own the game and play it is going to have it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we still probably have like easily 20 plus million people that are going to buy into the platform that might want it then, but you know, that kind of sucks for them. But other than that, like, I don't feel like there's too many people right now.
Well,
that
you let them know. They can buy it from me for the low price of $500. No, nay, $4.99. Little discount there. I'll throw
so
in.
generous.
Yep.
Yeah. A couple more questions here. Birdman, I think, well, it's just a statement. I think 3D All Stars is going to end, though. Yeah, I mean, Nintendo said it would, so
Oh, yeah.
I don't dispute that. Saturn Tubes, the game was on the market for months. How is that anti-consumer? They were upfront about it. I think it's worth noting. Like, they were clear about it, right? Like, they have given people half a year to pick it up. You can download it on the Switch eShop. Do I think it's strange that they're just going to take it off? Kinda. Yeah, I kinda do. Again, I do think there's a plan for that. But I don't think it's wrong to call it anti-consumer just because, well, it's not pro-consumer. So, therefore, it's like it's not helpful for consumers to take it off the market. Like, that's what it is. Like, now, do I think Nintendo are scumbags and they should never be forgiven? I wouldn't go that far, right? For me, it's just like, all right, well, pick up the game as soon as you can. But what about for people who don't have a Switch yet, right? And they're like, oh man, I want to get that. They won't be able to get that. So that's where kind of like the anti-consumer thing kind of comes in. But, yeah, you know, I think they'll have it available at some point. I do see that Nick Ortega brought up the Game Boy Online system is next. I have heard the speculation, rumors to that. Could be the case. Game Boy is easier to do than well, less exciting than N64, I would say. I think they should eventually get to Game Boy Online, though, so if that happened, that's fine with me.
I guess.
I'd rather have real features on
It'd
my
be the third
service.
time. The third installment of
real features.
emulators that people don't care about on Nintendo Switch Online.
I mean, like, yeah, it's kind of nice to say, but at the end of the day, like,
I think
don't-
Game Boy Online will have way less of a a push for Nintendo Online than N64 Online.
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
anything will do a
Yeah.
push for Nintendo Online unless they actually like have dedicated servers or put N64 games on
Well,
there.
they are reworking their servers, so you know that's something.
well, they're matchmaking servers for, you know, peer to peer. But are they fixing their net code? Because if their net code's still trash, you still have garbage games and garbage experience.
Hey man, playing Smash Bros. Online and losing because your opponent's lagging to victory, that's a great experience.
It's a nice
I've
experience.
said it
Best
before.
memories.
I'll say it again. I would buy Splatoon 3 if it was Splatoon 2 with better netcode. Like, I literally would. Like, it's that frustrating at times. And like
Everybody
lately,
knows.
like the desyncs, oh my goodness. We literally have a clip from my team where we are playing. I show up off spawn, go to shoot a Luna Blaster. He literally teleports behind me. And then my teammate starts to be like, whoa, 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 as he teleports a few more times. So you have my view of them teleporting behind me, and then I just die. And then my teammate kills them from way outside of their range. She dies. And in the camera of where you're seeing the player go, he's respawning. And then on top of that, we're like, what is even going on? Like, one of our teammates, what's even going on? It's like, you're complaining about the Luna. It's like, yeah, the Luna is teleporting. It's like, no, I killed the Luna. He literally shows up, kills the Luna. It teleports across the map, kills me, teleports again, dies, and kills my other teammate all in the same play and respawns instantly.
Well, we all
They have
know.
players who have literally Rainmakers coming towards them.
Sounds fun to me.
They see they see the counter on the Rainmaker like go to 0, and they're shooting at nothing, and they're like, where, like, what? Oh, game over. You think you got knocked out?
We all know,
What?
guys. It's because they don't have enough ping. We just need more number. More is better, right?
We
Higher
played
number.
we played a scrim where certain people disconnected to some people but not others, yet they could still see them shooting on the map but could not see or interact with that player. Like, it's been bad recently, man. Like, really bad. Like, really, really bad.
Well, I hope that
they
does
need to
get
fix
improved upon it eventually. But I feel like, you know, we've pretty much reached a natural conclusion for this discussion. There's still a lot to sift through. I am excited for Pokémon Legends Arceus. I am interested in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I will buy it. I am very curious about how Nintendo's going to handle the second half of 2021. It's going to be very interesting, and also, by extension, what they're doing with 2022 with Splatoon 3, for example. There is so much that they could to look forward to. I mean, even next week we have something to look forward to with the Smash presentation. Actually, I think I got a question that I kind of missed that I want to get to, but I missed it. Someone was asking me about Mika. Who was it?
We're also a few weeks away from the best-selling third-party game on the system.
Monster Hunter Rise is gonna come.
Yeah,
It's gonna be so good.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on this game, guys. If you're looking for a big, awesome, epic game on Switch, Monster Hunter Rise is it. But
if you can only buy one game and you need it to last forever,
Monster Hunter Rise, hundreds of
This is gonna
hours,
be the one.
easy. Tay Rule added me earlier. Me costume predictions for Pyra Mythra presentation on March 4th. So, I made a video about this. It didn't do well. Maybe because I uploaded way too late, or maybe because no one cares. But I have this little theory, and it's probably wrong. I don't want to like build up too much anticipation here. It's probably wrong. I don't really expect this. I'm okay with how things are, but I just want to put it out there. I think there's a possibility that an alternative. I know I'll get to the Mii costumes, but an alternative costume for Pyra and Mythra could be Rex. I understand that Rex is already part of the taunts. He's already part of the Final Smash, but he's so important to Pyra and Mythra. Like he's supposed to fight alongside them, right? And he's such a heavy pivotal part of the actual like reveal trailer too. Like it's kind of like he's like half the star, right? Like half the trailer is him searching for Pyra, and then he's narrating throughout, right? So he's important, but he's not the character. It's Pyra and Mythra, which is fine. I think they're awesome. They are epic. I'm super excited for it. But technically, I think it's possible that they could make an alternative costume where instead of Pyra switching to Mythra, it's Rex just switching the sword. Which technically kind of makes more sense to how you played Xenoblade 2 to begin with. And considering what they did with Hero and how they had the different characters for different costumes, it's not out of the question. Is it likely? I'm going to say no, because they have them as so involved with the taunts and the Final Smash. However, I want to point out something interesting to you guys. Do you guys know what I'm getting at yet? It's related to the Smash banner. No? Nothing.
No, not an idea.
Okay. Oh, don't you worry. I got a surprise for you. All right, I'm gonna point this out to you guys who haven't gotten a chance to see my point. So, is it visible? Can you guys see what I'm looking at here?
I cannot yet.
Okay. Well,
Oh, there we go. There it is. There it is.
I want you to notice Morgana and Joker, and then right to the right we see a little bit more space than usual, and we see Pyra and Mithra next to Shulk. Now it's gonna kind of loop through, but the point I'm making here is that Morgana is the taunt character for Joker. And Morgana, like a little cat that isn't part of Final Smash, that isn't like super important. It is important, but it's not nearly as important as Rex is to Pyra and Mithra, is in the Smash banner. But Rex, which is part of the taunt for both characters, the Final Smash, a big part of the reveal, and the main character for their respective game, and is a part of how they actually fight and play in the game, is not in the Smash banner. And they're right next to each other. So I think more likely, right? It's just they just didn't feel like he was worth putting in the Smash banner this time around. It just didn't feel like it made sense. But I have to wonder if like they'll have another little surprise, right? And it's like, oh, yeah, Rex is actually an alt costume too, and then they put him in the Smash banner as well. They just adjust it a little bit. Like that would be like one more little, hey, he did make it, kind of thing. Not likely. At all. I wouldn't expect it. I think as it is, it's fine. It's super cool. But I just want to put it out there. I think it's possible.
Nope. Dreams crush. Not gonna happen.
No. No.
No.
But what do you think of my point though? Oh no. Oh no. I deleted it. Wow. No.
What have you done?
There we go. Like. What do you make of my point though of Morgana next to Joker? Morgana just being a taunt character, yet Rex being more significant than Morgana is not next to Pyra and Mithra in the Smash banner. Is it because Morgana is less significant that it was just easier to put them in there, or do you think that they just decided to shaft Rex?
No idea. Someone else probably signed off on it.
Yeah. And
the wrong person signed off on it.
That's probably all it is. It's probably just more of a on a whim artistic decision, right? That is probably what it is. But I just want to put that out there, in case it ends up being the case. It probably won't be. I don't expect it at all. Pyra and Mithra are cool as they are. He's in the taunt. He's in the Final Smash. It's fine. But to go back to the Mii costumes, do we already have some Xenoblade 2 Mii costumes besides Rex?
No idea.
I have to imagine, like, I saw like a shot of Nia, but I wonder if that was just like my prediction for the Mii costumes that the Xenoblade 2 cast will be given Mii costumes. All the other ones. Tora, Poppy, Zeke, what is Zeke's
Can't remember right now.
For the electric girl with the light bulb thing. Zeke's blade.
It's been a couple of years since I've played, so
yeah, Morag and well, for sure, like all of Xenoblade, all of Rex's party members, I think they'll get Mii costumes. Maybe they'll even put in Malus and Jin as well. I could see that. Obviously Nia, and that would work. I could see that. Actually, they wouldn't do all of them because there's blades and characters, but there'll be a good, like, at least 3 or 4 of them I think will be given Mii costumes. That's my prediction in terms of Mii costumes for the Sakurai Presents.
Cool.
Yeah. Now if we get that's it. I think they might be saving the Monster Hunter Mii costumes for a potential Monster Hunter Rise character reveal later this year.
There's going to be crossover events with Monster Hunter. Like they always do them, and Nintendo's had tons of them. I even did a video talking about like Splatoon 2 crossover and like all the different weapon options that they could use. And then like later that day of it going up, they dropped freaking Splatoon 3 with a bow. I'm like, if I would have just waited.
Man. I see Super Chris has my back here. Yeah, so Zeke's blade is Pandoria, and Bridget is Morax. Thank you. And Nintendo Josh said, all I need is Pyro's cloak outfit as an alt. That would be a good one, the little like cloak thing. I wonder what Mitra's equivalent would be, but that'd be nice to see, for sure. That'd be really cool. But yeah, I think we're pretty much at the end of this discussion, right? Like, that's it. We need to. I want to do some like. We're not doing it now, but Splatoon. There's got to be like a lot of Splatoon 3 like theory analysis coming. Do you have anything brewing, Dumo?
Story-wise, not so much, but it's just we have things like Salmon Run. What are they going to do to replace Salmon Run? Because
I think they're going to expand on it because the salmon.
But like you're
working with them.
You have
now
your little buddy Salmon, you know, the SOS.
Well, so maybe there's
So
something
it's like,
even
so
scarier.
is it going to be
something even scarier than the salmonids? What if it's like skeletons because they are in the desert?
You know, what if it's
Yeah.
Who knows? But like something there's going to have to happen. And then other than that, like I look more towards like the competitive side of things and balance and just kits, and there's so much analysis going on right now, and like there's a lot of stuff happening, and I know what I want to see. I just want like overall improvements and stuff in the game, and there's so far it looks good, it looks exciting. The new movement shown off, it's gonna make big changes. There's things like Moray Towers. So many people hate the map, and you know it's coming back. And as much as I don't want to see it back, I'm kind of interested to see it with some of the new movements. So it's like, it looks.
I kind of miss Splatoon now. I need to play it. I see Birdman said something interesting. What if we see Pyramithra's bikini outfit? That's another. I don't think they'll do it, but you know, another possibility there. But yeah, you know, Dumo, you've been streaming Splatoon 2 lately, right? So guys, if you want to talk more about Splatoon with Dumo and other Nintendo things, make sure to check out his channel. It is linked in the description below. Brand's been streaming as well. WhataboutNodnarb, also linked in the description below. Make sure to check him out as well. You guys have any final thoughts or anything to close it out, or we good to go?
I'm excited for what's coming.
There's a lot coming. Coming.
It's nice being excited for Pokemon. Can't wait to see more of Arceus.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Probably have to wait like a really long time to see more, but when we do, it's gonna be hype.
We're gonna have stuff in between, so it's gonna make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. We may not see more about Arceus until after Diamond and Pearl comes out. It's kind of crazy to think about that. I don't know. Maybe they'll have another. It's
so early. What are you gonna show?
I don't know.
They probably showed off more than they should have already.
Maybe they'll have another Pokemon Presents summertime, like they usually have some present. Oftentimes they've had presentations in the summer, and they'll give us another little like update on that. Maybe
they have their investor one that they have started streaming now.
Yeah, maybe we'll get more details there. We'll probably learn more about the game, but I would wait a few months. It's probably mostly rumors and speculation until then. Yeah. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. We'll see you really soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, guys.